Chapter 105. Not necessarily. Jin Chun frowned slightly. At this moment, a roar of pain suddenly came from midair. It did not come from Long Lin, but Xiao Hanyu. Damn it! Why are you here? He turned around in shock and saw that the dragon scale saber had been pulled out of his abdomen. Blood was flowing out. Blind spot. When he used the heart-shattering sound wave technique, there would be a blind spot on his left side. No one knew about this blind spot. But now, the dragon scale had appeared precisely from this blind spot. Young master has seen through everything. There was still blood at the corner of Long Lin's mouth. Apparently, he was injured after taking a few blows from Xiao Hanyu. But now, Xiao Hanyu's aura was weak, and he kept retreating. Stop! Xiao Guangshan sensed that something was wrong and was about to attack. However, once Long Lin attacked, his saber would definitely draw blood. No! Xiao Hanyu burned his glory energy in exchange for his weakened state. He could still use 70% of his peak speed to dodge. However, before he retreated, Long Lin had already held his saber horizontally. In an instant, an invisible saber intent appeared and blocked Xiao Hanyu's path of retreat. Void Saber Intent, peak of the second level of saber sealing. Nangong Lai's eyes widened. This saber intent is on the same level as Jian Chen's Sword Dao. In the Sword Tribe, Jian Chun frowned slightly. Interesting. There were not many people in the southern border who were proficient in saber techniques. It was rare to have such a powerful saber sealing. Young clan leader Xia, save me. Xiao Hanyu cried for help as the dragon scale saber's saber intent slashed down. If he was in his peak condition, he was confident that he could dodge or even take the blow. However, he had been hit first, and his glory energy had fallen to the samsara realm. How could he block it? Xiao Bing, stop you, man. Xia Guangshan ordered angrily. Xiao Bing glanced at Lin Yu and saw that he was unmoved. She recalled how Xia Guangshan had bullied her in the past and said coldly, "Life and death are predestined in a battle. No one is allowed to interfere." You. Xia Guangshan was furious. Then, Xiao Hanyu's painful scream could be heard. With a bang, the two halves of the corpse fell to the ground. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Dragon Scale's expression was cold as he returned to the second level. After bowing to Lin Yu, he stood off to the side, not saying another word. It was as if he had just killed an ant. Nangong Lai and the members of the Sword Race felt a chill run down their spines. Such a person was like a knife that was born to kill. And the owner of this saber was obviously Lin Yu. Brother Lai, Nangong Qin's voice was a little hoarse. She didn't dare to look at the dragon scale again. Just now, they were still mocking Long Lin, saying that he would definitely die. But now, Xiao Hanyu didn't even have the chance to close his eyes before he died on the ground. I finally understand how the Bailing sect lost yesterday. Nangong Lai was shocked and looked at Long Lin with fear. They had originally thought that Lin Yu's group would show off their skills in the zither battle and wine battle. However, his combat strength was his greatest shortcoming. But now, that was clearly not the case. Xia Guangshan stood up with a pale face. Xiao Bing, get out here. He knew that with the current situation, challenging Lin Yu and the others was already too risky. But if Xia Bing was defeated by him, Xia Guangshan would still have the chance to severely injure her. If Xia Bing lost, the Sacred Heart Cauldron would no longer belong to her. Better to die than to live in dishonor. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Xia Bing frowned and wanted to ask for Lin Yu's opinion. Young Master Lin, can I? She completely trusted Lin Yu's judgment. From yesterday until today, Lin Yu's perfect strategy had made her team invincible. The two great cultivation techniques of the Yao tribe are natural enemies. Before Lin Yu finished speaking, Xia Bing was shocked. How did you know? Lin Yu didn't explain too much. Use the second half of your pure fire Xiantian technique to attack the first half of his heavenly flame chaotic technique and vice versa. Xia Bing understands. She was overjoyed and stood up. Even she didn't know that the two cultivation techniques of the Yao tribe countered each other. She didn't have the chance to verify Lin Yu's words. Now that she landed on the ground, her pretty face froze. Young Master Lin can't be wrong. Xia Bing gritted her teeth and activated her cultivation technique. My good cousin, who asked you to invite such an outstanding person? I can only wrong you to be a cripple for the rest of your life. Xia Kuangshan's lips curled. He knew that Xia Bing was talented in alchemy, but how could he lose to her in battle as a man? I will make you go out on your knees. Xia Kuangshan's entire body's yang energy converged, transforming into a streak of red light that shot out explosively. Xia Bing frowned. Her cultivation was lower than Xia Kuangshan's by a small level. She became vigilant. Seeing the red light approaching, Xia Bing quickly turned sideways and attacked. The second half of the pure fire Xiantian technique can counter it. She gritted her teeth and believed in Lin Yu's words. She attacked with her palm. Xia Kuangshan sneered. Wasn't it a competition of cultivation? In terms of cultivation, Xia Bing couldn't win against him. But in the next moment, he saw that when the two cultivation techniques collided, his cultivation technique was reduced by 30%. What's going on? Xia Kuangshan was greatly shocked. His heavenly flame chaotic art had actually been knocked back. He turned around and changed his move again. Xia Bing did the same. This time, it's the first half of the cultivation technique. Boom! The two cultivation techniques collided again. Xia Kuangshan spat out a mouthful of blood. His pupils dilated and he kept retreating. Impossible, impossible, why can't I defeat her? In the next moment, Xia Bing took the initiative to attack. Xia Kuangshan kept retreating and flew out. You've lost. Xia Bing wasn't a dragon scale and couldn't kill Xia Kuangshan directly. She said coldly. Xia Kuangshan staggered to his feet. Just you wait. After saying that, he left with his subordinates. Xia Bing heaved a sigh of relief. She turned around and went up to the second floor. Her eyes were filled with joy and gratitude. She bowed deeply to Lin Yu. Thank you, young master. When Xia Kuangshan was leaving, he turned around and saw Xia Bing's action. He immediately understood. That Lin Yu was not simple. Miss Xia's battle was really exciting. The painted fairy smiled. I wonder if there are any other experts willing to show off their skills. The so-called martial arts battle was basically to settle personal grudges. Only people like Xiao Hanyu and Xia Kuangshan would not be able to hold themselves back during a martial arts battle. Most of the people present would save their strength for weapon combat. The painted fairy saw that no one else was taking the initiative to show up. She smiled faintly and clapped her hands. Immediately after, two pillars of light shot down from the sky above Fengyue brothel. A cauldron and a sword landed on the ground. The cauldron was made of white jade. There was a faint light flowing on its surface. It was about 5 feet tall. When it landed on the ground, its 4 legs crushed the stone tiles on the ground. On the other side, a 6-feet-long greatsword, which exuded a thick and heavy aura, also landed on the ground. Everyone's eyes fell on these 2 treasures. The Sacred Heart Cauldron and the Black Tortoise Sword have finally appeared. At the Sword Tribe, the great sword on Jian Qin's back vibrated violently. He narrowed his eyes. They are indeed the most precious treasures of the Sword Tribe. Chapter 106. During the war between the 8 clans, the Black Tortoise Sword went missing with the previous elder. Who knew that it would end up in the hands of the Fengyue brothel? Someone whispered behind him. Jian Chun was furious, and a murderous look flashed across his eyes. Using our items as the reward for the Fengyue brothel, I will uproot the Fengyue clan sooner or later. His voice was very low, and no one heard him. On the other side, Xia Bing stared at the Sacred Heart Cauldron and the Black Tortoise Sword. She also noticed that Nangong Lai and Jian Chun were eyeing them covetously. Young Master Lin, can you really take the 2 treasures at the same time? Try your best. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Then, the painted fairy announced the rules. The Fengyue clan was lucky enough to obtain 2 treasures and specially shared them with the 8 clans of the south. Today, only 3 clans will come to the Fengyue brothel, so the 3 clans will fight among themselves. The Fengyue clan will not interfere with the outcome, but to be fair, the 3 clans can only send 1 person at a time. No one would refute the painted fairy's words. Nangong Qin whispered, Brother Lai, When should we attack? Everyone was watching. Nangong Lai frowned. Let's wait for a while longer. As expected, someone from the sword clan landed on the ground and stood directly in front of the black tortoise sword. The black tortoise sword used to belong to the sword clan. Whoever dares to touch it will have to defeat the sword clan first. On the second floor, Xia Bing frowned. I did hear that the sword clan has 4 sacred swords. If the black tortoise sword is one of them, why is it in the hands of the Fengyue clan? Lin Yu sized up the sword clan and Nangong clan. They were his only opponents now. Seeing this, Yi Mingwei raised her eyebrows at Lin Yu, full of admiration. Our omniscient young master, do you know about the 4 sacred swords? Hearing that Xia Bing and Yi Mingwei had doubts, Lu Wuhan, Sword Maniac, and Long Lin also looked over. They were obviously very interested in the black tortoise sword. Lin Yu smiled helplessly. Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise were the 4 sacred beasts of the south. As soon as he spoke, everyone immediately held their breaths and quietly listened to him. The 4 sacred beasts fell during the Tao and era. The ancestors of the sword race used the blood left behind by the sacred beasts and countless southern borders top-grade iron to forge the 4 sacred swords. When they heard about the era of Tao elimination, it was like the scene of the ancient era from 10,000 years ago appeared before them again. The sacred sword contains the power of the 4 sacred beasts. Unfortunately, it has been a long time, and the power inside has weakened a lot. 150 years ago, the 8 clans of the southern border went to war because of a matter, and the black tortoise sword went missing from the sword clan. Xia Bing couldn't help but ask, then why did it appear in the hands of the Wind Moon clan? Then we'll have to start with the reason for the war. The reason for the war? Xia Bing asked. Lin Yu sighed softly. 150 years ago, the lord of the southern border, the 9-headed Buddha Emperor, wanted to build a 10,000 Buddha hall. The 8 clans all hoped that the 10,000 Buddha hall would be built in their own clans. The 10,000 Buddhas hall contains the Buddha Emperor's Tao, and is also his place of enlightenment and cultivation. Although the Buddha Emperor may not be there often, to be able to obtain the 10,000 Buddhas hall is equivalent to obtaining the Buddha Emperor's protection. Yi Mingwei was extremely intelligent. She immediately clapped her hands and asked, the 10,000 Buddhas hall is in the Wind Moon clan? Lin Yu shook his head. Yes and no. Everyone was even more confused. Xia Bing stroked her chin. If the 10,000 Buddhas hall is in the Wind Moon clan, then the Wind Moon clan wouldn't be afraid of the Sword clan and would even hand over the black tortoise sword. That's right. Lin Yu smiled. The Wind Moon clan obtained the treasures, but the Sacred Heart Cauldron and the black tortoise sword are items that the Medicine clan and the Sword clan must fight for. They knew that instead of letting the 2 clans take them, they would rather take the initiative to hand them over. Lu Wuhan frowned. Then why didn't they take the initiative to hand them over to the 2 clans? It's a matter of face. Lin Yu smiled. Everyone immediately understood. If they handed them over directly, the Wind Moon clan would definitely lose face. Instead, it would make the other 7 clans feel that the Wind Moon clan was afraid of them. However, if they used the Wind Moon clan's name and let the 7 clans fight for them, things would be much more interesting. Not only can the Wind Moon clan see through the younger generation of the Medicine clan and the Sword clan, but they also have the opportunity to make them kill each other. Yi Mingwei glanced at Xia Bing. The Medicine clan was the best example. So, everything is the Wind Moon clan's plan. Xia Bing sighed softly. However, she knew that there was no other way. Since we must obtain the Sacred Heart Cauldron, let's begin. As Lin Yu spoke, his battle intent surged. Master, do you want us to take action? Long Lin was eager to try. Xia Bing was also preparing to stand up. However, she saw Lin Yu shaking his head. No rush. Let the Nangong clan play first. As soon as he finished speaking, before Xia Bing could reply, someone from the Nangong clan attacked. In just half a breath, that person fell directly to the ground. That person from the Sword clan is actually a 4 Suns transcendent realm. Xia Bing's expression was solemn. Sword Maniac frowned. The second realm of Sword Doctrine plus the four suns, transcendent realm. His combat power is much stronger than us. Who else? That person placed his left hand behind his waist, and his right hand held an azure blue longsword. Sword Shuang from the Sword Clan is here to experience the 8 clans' experts. Sword Shuang is known as the strongest person below the junior sword honorable. So it's him. Xia Bing's heart trembled. She was also shocked by Sword Shuang's attack. Not only her, but Nangong Lai's expression was even uglier. His own person was severely injured by Sword Shuang's sword aura. That injury would probably cripple him for life. Brother Lai, should we take action? Nangong Qin said coldly. However, even if she was furious, her eyes still flickered. Obviously, she wasn't confident in facing Sword Shuang. Hee. Nangong Lai naturally knew this. He stood up, cupped his fist towards the Sword Clan, and smiled. The Black Tortoise sword belongs to the Sword Clan. My Nangong clan naturally disdains to snatch other people's treasures. Everyone looked towards him. Xia Bing had a bad premonition. As expected, Nangong Lai continued. How about this? The Black Tortoise sword belongs to the Sword Clan, and the Sacred Heart Cauldron belongs to the Nangong clan. How about this? When he spoke, he didn't even look at Lin Yu and the rest. Obviously, he didn't treat them as competitors. However, he was well aware that once the sword race agreed, this matter would be settled. The 2 giants would distribute the treasures themselves. What would the Yao clan do? Jianshan glanced at Sword Addict and Lin Yu and said, sure. Nangong Lai smiled and waved his hand. Seeing this, Nangong Qin smiled charmingly and landed in front of the Sacred Heart Cauldron. The Painted Fairy and Shiyu couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. It was obvious that the Yao clan couldn't afford to offend either side. Even if the Yao clan only wanted the Sacred Heart Cauldron, the Nangong clan and the Sword clan seemed to be in a semi-alliance. If the Yao clan were to deal with Nangong Qin, the Sword clan might interfere. This matter has been settled. Painted Fairy and Guqin Fairy, please announce it. Nangong Lai was satisfied with his plan. Xia Kuangshan had been defeated. It was obvious that they were bullying the Yao clan. The Painted Fairy looked in the Yao clan's direction with interest. Seeing Xia Bing's pale face, she knew that she couldn't resolve the situation. She looked at Jianshan. What do you think, little sword venerable? Jianshan looked coldly at Lin Yu and the rest of the Yao clan. The treasures belong to the strong. Announce it. Chapter 107. Although Nangong Lai's strategy was a little cowardly, it was obviously very effective. This also meant that the Sword Tribe lacked fearless battles. Naturally, the Sword Tribe would not reject a win-win situation. All right then. The Painted Fairy also smiled. Although she could not see Jianshan and Nangong Lai fight, and the Wind Moon Tribe did not achieve their goal, she had no other choice. In that case, the Sacred Heart Cauldron and the Black Tortoise sword, Xia Bing, clench her fists. She knew that she had no chance of winning against 2 powerful enemies. However, when she thought of her grandfather's illness, she still stood up resolutely. However, the moment she stood up, 2 divine senses seemed to have been waiting for her. It was a divine sense that contained sword chi and a divine sense that contained the power of an array. In that instant, Xia Bing's cultivation trembled. She knew that it was a warning from Jianshan and Nangong Lai. Xia Bing's eyes were moist. She realized that she could not move her legs. Painted Fairy, please continue. Nangong Lai smiled. The Painted Fairy retracted her gaze from Xia Bing. The Sacred Heart Cauldron will belong to Nangong. Wait. Suddenly, a voice interrupted her. Jianshan and Nangong Lai frowned at the same time. They saw a man beside Xia Bing step out with a chuckle. His appearance allowed Xia Bing to regain her freedom. Her chest heaved as she looked at Lin Yu gratefully. Let me do it. Lin Yu stepped out and landed on the ground floor. He stood in front of Jian Shuang and Nangong Qin and said in a voice that everyone could hear, Yao tribe's representative, Lin Yu, challenges everyone. His voice was not loud, but it contained the power of a triple unity realm. It reverberated within the Wind Moon tribe, causing everyone's heart to skip a beat. He's crazy. What does he mean? The Nangong clan members were enraged. Nangong gritted his teeth. Arrogant. Does he want to snatch both items? Jian Chen narrowed his eyes. The sword tribe members behind him said, "This person is proficient in the Guqin Dao. Is he also very powerful? That shouldn't be the case. His aura is only at the 4 ignition samsara realm. The sword frost should be enough to kill him." Jian Chen looked down and said, "Jian Shuang, since someone wants to die, let's fulfill his wish." Yes. Jian Shuang's battle intent surged as he took a step forward. For streams of scorching, glorious qi enveloped Lin Yu and shot towards him. In an instant, the temperature of the surrounding space soared once more. Xiao Bing's face turned pale. However, due to the rules of the Wind Moon clan, only one person could fight. Otherwise, she would have already gone down. Young Master Lin is in danger. Yi Mingwei held her hand. It's all right. Young Master is very strong. But Jian Shuang's cultivation is one whole realm higher than young Master Lin's. Xiao Bing was still very uneasy. Lu Wuhin said in a rare, serious tone, "No one is a match for young Master." Long Lin also nodded. There was no fear in his eyes. Instead, just like Lin Yu, he was filled with anticipation for the upcoming battle. Lin Yu was strong because he had fought with the 7 Yi Devil Emperor before. This was also the source of their fearlessness. The person who killed you is Jian Shuang of the sword race. Just as he finished speaking, Jian Shuang moved. He raised the long sword in his hand, and a sharp sword qi rose from the ground. Jian Shuang fused with his sword. It was as though he and his sword had become one. This is a killer move. Jian Shuang wants to end the battle in one move. Jian Shuang never gives his enemy a chance. No matter how weak his opponent is, he will never underestimate them. Lin Yu is finished. The Nangong clan and sword race looked at Lin Yu as though they were looking at a dead man. Shi Yu, who was seated in the seat of honor, felt her heart tighten. Her beautiful face was filled with melancholy. The painted fairy said helplessly, "Sister, it's rare for you to meet an expert in the Guqin Dao. It's a pity. He didn't have to die." The painted fairy sighed. The reason why she cooperated with the alliance between the Nangong clan and sword race was because she was worried that the Yao clan wouldn't be able to hold themselves back and attack. Once they attacked, she believed that the people brought by Xia Bing from the Yao clan would definitely be defeated. Below, Jian Shuang's soaring sword qi descended. Lin Yu raised his right hand, and his 5 fingers formed a claw. In an instant, his clothes fluttered without any wind. A terrifying aura was emitted from Lin Yu's body. It's still not stable. However, it will be stable once I kill a few more people. Lin Yu's lips curled. No one knew what he meant. However, a vortex suddenly appeared in the sky above the battle between the two. The vortex was pitch black. The moment it appeared, it shocked everyone. However, what was even more shocking was that a dragon's roar came from the black hole. The dragon's roar was like thunder. It was even more terrifying than the Kuan Peng cry of the young lady riding a Kuan Peng. It was as though a true Fey overlord was about to appear from the black vortex. What is that? How can a mere samsara realm cultivator summon such a thing? The 3 races were extremely shocked. Jian Shuang faced the black hole. Even though his sword Dao cultivation was extremely strong, he was still shocked. Only Jian Chen can match my sword Dao. No one below the southern border's junior sword venerable is my match. Jian Shuang gritted his teeth as his sword qi slashed down at Lin Yu. However, at that instant, a black claw that was 30 feet long came crashing down on Jian Shuang from the vortex. What? Jian Shuang's sword qi struck the claw. However, the claw that was the size of a human was unaffected. Instead, it moved even faster. Retreat. Jian Chen's expression changed drastically as he stood up. Jian Shuang reacted. Seeing that the claw was about to reach him, he placed his sword on the ground and blocked the second sword qi. Just as he was about to retreat, bang, 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 the sword qi shattered easily. Jian Shuang did not even have the time to escape before the claw came crashing down. Boom! The claw disappeared. All that was left was a pool of blood. A broken sword. What happened? Damn it! Damn it! Jian Shuang is dead. Everyone from the sword race stood up. However, no one took the initiative to stand in front of Lin Yu. The thing in the vortex had only revealed a claw, and it was enough to kill Jian Shuang instantly. If all of them had appeared, the entire Fengyue brothel would have been destroyed in an instant. They did not dare to attack. Xia Bing and the rest were so frightened that they could not speak. However, as the vortex disappeared, Lin Yu walked forward slowly. He walked around the pool of blood left behind by Jian Shuang and did not even look at him. He only stopped when he stood in front of Nangong Qin. "No, don't kill me." Nangong Qin was so frightened that she knelt down. She did not even have the courage to face Lin Yu, let alone fight for the Sacred Heart Cauldron with Lin Yu. "Get lost." Lin Yu walked around and ignored her. An opponent like this did not even have the right to make him attack. Nangong Qin also realized this. If it had been before, she would have attacked Lin Yu because he looked down on her. But now, Nangong Qin felt like she had just survived a disaster. Without thinking, she ran straight to where Nangong Lai was. Brother Lai." Her voice was still trembling. Lin Yu gave her the feeling that he was scarier than anyone else. Nangong Qin even felt that if she had been a little closer, she might have died together with Jian Shuang. Nangong Lai's face darkened as he watched Lin Yu put away the Sacred Heart Cauldron into his storage ring. At the same time, he looked over at him. "Nangong Lai, do you have a problem with that?" Lin Yu smiled faintly. He had a harmless look on his face. However, it made Nangong Lai break out in cold sweat. He had just plotted against the Yao race and made the Nangong and Sword race distribute the Sacred Heart Cauldron and Black Tortoise Sword among themselves. Now that Lin Yu was provoking him in front of so many people, Nangong Lai's mouth was trembling, but he could not say a word. Chapter 108. Nangong Lai is terrified. The painted fairy smiled faintly and whispered to Shiyu. Shiyu's gaze had been fixed on Lin Yu the entire time. "Su Feng, have you seen him before?" The painted fairy's name was Su Feng. "I've never seen him before. If there's such a powerful person in the southern border, how could we not know about him?" Shiyu took a deep breath. "Our Wind Moon clan is known for collecting information about the southern border, but we don't even know about such a powerful person. Maybe he's not from the southern border." Su Feng frowned. The northern border has undergone a huge change recently. Could he be from the northern border? Down below, Nangong Lai did not dare to say a word from beginning to end. On the other side, the Sword Clan members were gnashing their teeth. Jian Shuang was dead, but they did not dare to seek revenge on Lin Yu. Just like how they had decided that the Black Tortoise Sword would belong to them and the Sacred Heart Cauldron would belong to the Nangong clan, they had also decided that the Yao clan would not dare to resist. But now, Jian Chun and the others could only feel their faces hurting. It's worth sacrificing one person to obtain the Black Tortoise Sword. Jian Chun gritted his teeth, but in the next moment, his killing intent surged. This was because he saw Lin Yu heading toward the Black Tortoise Sword. "That belongs to the Sword Clan," Jian Chun said angrily. "Then you take it. You." Jian Chun was about to attack when the people behind him pulled him back. "Little Sword Venerable, the thing in the vortex." Hearing this, Jian Chun suddenly felt that his feet were as heavy as 1,000 caddies. The thing in the vortex could kill Jian Shuang in an instant. Jian Chun was certain that he was no match for that thing. Seeing that even Jian Chun did not dare to attack, Xia Bing and the others heaved a sigh of relief. "May I know what cultivation technique young Master Lin used? I've never seen it before." "Oh Long, have you seen it before?" Long Lin shook his head. "Young Master is unfathomable. We don't know his trump card at all." Lin Yu could tell that Jian Chun was afraid of the 8 Great Void Tribes. In reality, with his current strength, he could only unleash less than 10% of the power of the first Dragon Transformation chapter. Lin Yu stood beside the Black Tortoise Sword with one hand on the sword hilt. He chuckled. "If I were to say that I would only use my sword to fight, would you dare to make a move?" He only used Sword Dao. He clearly won. Why did he challenge me with the way of the sword? Shiyu's heart skipped a beat. It was hard to find a good Guqin friend, and the girl riding the Kuan was one of them. Therefore, Shiyu personally went to the door to welcome her. Lin Yu was the more powerful one. But from the looks of it, Lin Yu was constantly courting death. Good, you have guts. Jian Chen's face was ferocious. His entire body was like an unsheathed sword as he fell to the ground. At that moment, the green sword on Jian Chen's back seemed to emit a shocking dragon's roar. Why? Why is young master doing this? Xiao Bing was shocked. Lin Yu had won. It was obvious that he would have won with that terrifying cultivation technique. But now, he actually wanted to challenge Jian Chen with Sword Dao. Sword Maniac, take a good look at the four sacred black tortoise sword technique. Lin Yu's voice sounded. Sword Maniac rushed forward and leaned against the second railing. He stared at Lin Yu without moving an inch. Young master challenged Jian Chen with Sword Dao and even taught him a sword. Even Lu Wuhin was shocked by Lin Yu's actions. Jian Chen narrowed his eyes. Who are you looking down on? As soon as he finished speaking, the sword on his back suddenly left its scabbard. The dragon's roar was deafening. At the same time, Jian Chen held the huge sword in his hand. A 3-foot-long green dragon phantom circled around his body. That sword is the four sacred azure dragon sword. I didn't expect the sword tribe to give Jian Chen a sacred sword. Xiao Bing was worried for Lin Yu. Young Master Lin is in danger. His sword Dao is invincible. Long Lin's voice suddenly sounded. His gaze was fixed on Lin Yu's right hand. Wasn't that hand holding the black tortoise sword? There aren't many people who can take a sword from me. Jian Chen's murderous intent surged. The green dragon emitted a ferocious, murderous aura. This murderous aura merged with the sword qi. Jian Chen's sword was like a predator staring at its prey. Lin Yu's expression was as calm as water. He pointed his finger, and the black tortoise sword broke out of the ground. Everyone saw the black tortoise sword rise into the air and split into 8. You dare to touch my sword tribe's treasure, Jian Chen roared. You should know where your azure dragon sword came from, right? Lin Yu sneered. The azure dragon sword and the black tortoise sword originally belonged to Jian Lingtian, Jian Chen's father. Jian Chen's heart tightened. The azure dragon sword did not belong to him at the beginning. This was something that not many people knew. Even those who knew were members of the sword tribe. Why would an outsider like Lin Yu know this secret? Who are you? Lin Yu did not answer. He raised his hands and the 8 swords spread out. 8 terrifying sword qi suddenly formed a sword in the air. Jian Chen's face changed. His sword Dao was actually trembling when facing Lin Yu's sword Dao. Impossible. I am the most talented descendant of the sword tribe in the past 100 years. No one's sword Dao is a match for me. Jian Chen roared. The azure dragon sword was pushed to the limit. The azure dragon phantom whizzed towards Lin Yu. It was like a dragon and a sword at the same time. The space in front of Lin Yu also emitted cracking sounds at this moment. Lin Yu closed his eyes as if he couldn't see the azure dragon sword qi approaching him. Madman, he actually dared to close his eyes when he was facing Jian Chen. Is he giving up on the battle and seeking death? Young master, while everyone was still reeling from the shock, the 8 sword qi above Lin Yu suddenly merged together. A huge sword qi that exuded a terrifying aura came crashing down. The moment this sword qi appeared, it was even more domineering than Jian Chen's azure dragon sword qi. Everyone could vaguely hear a chaotic roar coming from the sword qi and reverberating in the air. The aura of the 4 sacred black tortoise. Jian Chen's mind was in turmoil. The 2 sword qi collided. The ground at the bottom of the Fengyue brothel cracked and spread. A storm of sword qi swept across the ground. Many of the railings on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th levels were already broken. Retreat. The sword tribe, Nangon tribe, Fengyue tribe, Xiaobing, and the rest all retreated. They were almost hit by the sword qi. Sword fanatic stood there in a daze. She stared at Lin Yu and the sword qi, but in reality, she could no longer see Lin Yu and Jian Chen. The powerful sword qi was like a barrier that completely engulfed the 2 of them. When Yi Mingwei saw that sword fanatic was unwilling to retreat, she immediately pulled her hand and retreated. After a long time, when the sword qi stopped, Everyone saw Lin Yu and Jian Chen's figures. Young master, Xiao Bing and Yi Mingwei were worried and were about to go down. Yao tribe, don't forget the rules of the weapon battle. You disregarded the rules and helped Lin Yu. Don't blame us for attacking you. Before they could go down, they were warned by the Sword Tribe members. Xiao Bing and the rest were shocked. While they were hesitating, Lin Yu moved. He slowly put away the black tortoise sword into his storage ring. At the same time, Jian Chun collapsed. Young, Sword Venerable. The Sword Tribe members were shocked. How could it be? Young Sword Venerable lost. They could not remember how they warned the Yao tribe. At this moment, everyone flew down. How dare you? Shiyu's beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Her zither music swept across, and the Sword Tribe members spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 109. Fairy Zither, please don't misunderstand. The Sword Tribe will withdraw from the Wind Moon Gathering. An elder from the Sword Tribe knew that Jian Chun had been defeated. They had no chance of winning today. Fairy Zither's reaction showed that the Sword Tribe had broken the rules, so they did not dare to show any anger. Since you're not fighting, I won't send you off. Su Feng ordered them to leave. He's not dead. He's just unconscious. But we can't stay here. Let's go. The Sword Tribe checked Jian Chen's injuries and quickly left the Wind Moon brothel. When Nangong Lai saw this, he looked at Lin Yu in surprise. When did the southern border have such a powerful person? Even Jian Chun lost to him in the way of the sword? Could he be a member of the Sword Tribe's main bloodline, Jian Lingtian? But Jian Lingtian doesn't have a son. Nangong Qin frowned. She did not dare to stay any longer and left the Wind Moon brothel with the rest of the Nangong clan. After the Sword Tribe and Nangong clan left, Xiao Bing and the rest heaved a sigh of relief and came to Lin Yu's side. Congratulations, young master. Yi Mingwei glanced at Xiao Bing. How is it? I told you that young master was a man of his word. Xiao Bing nodded heavily, her gratitude evident in her words. It's all thanks to young master today. Lin Yu shrugged. He looked up and met second Fairy Zither's eyes. She landed on the ground. The competitors have all left. Congratulations to young Master Lin for obtaining 2 treasures alone. You are indeed the #1 prodigy in the southern border. Su Feng also landed. Young Master Lin is so powerful. Jian Chen's nickname is Junior Sword Venerable. But not only did he lose to you, but he also lost to you in Sword Dao. She nodded. I'm afraid that Jian Chen's Sword Dao will be greatly affected by this battle. A swordsman's state of mind is pure. But before Jian Chen met me, he was already affected. With distracting thoughts in his heart, it is destined that it will be difficult for him to reach the peak of Sword Dao. Su Feng and she were stunned by Lin Yu's words. Others might not be qualified to comment on Junior Sword Venerable, but Lin Yu had just fought with Jian Chun and defeated him. Young master, you are truly amazing to be able to see through Jian Chen's flaws in just one battle. Shiyu bowed again. My 3 sisters heard that young master pointed out the problem with the virgin wine, so they prepared better wine. I wonder if young master has time to taste it? Hearing this, Xiao Bing could not help but be startled. The Wind Moon 5 immortals were headed by the Wine Immortal, who was also the clan leader of the Wind Moon clan. Under him were the 4 immortals of Zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. They were in charge of the 4 major branches of the Wind Moon clan. Normally, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for ordinary people to see one of the 5 immortals. But now, Shiyu said that the 3 sisters had invited Lin Yu. Could it be that there were not only the Book Immortals and Chess Immortals, but also the Wind Moon clan leader and the Wine Immortal? With beauties and fine wine, Lin Yu is naturally willing to go. After saying that, he asked Shiyu and Su Feng to lead the way. This was within their expectations. In the entire southern border, who knew how many people wanted to see the Wind and Moon Immortals with their own eyes? Now that Lin Yu had this opportunity, it was normal for him to agree. With Shiyu and Su Feng leading the way, Lin Yu and the rest left the Wind Moon brothel. Following the walkway at the back, they came to a peach blossom forest filled with flying flowers. Peach blossom immortals in the depths of the peach blossom forest. A cup of sake envies the saints. Linyu took a deep breath and could not help but say this. Peach blossom immortals in the depths of the peach blossom forest. A cup of sake envies the saints. Shiyu and Su Feng could not help but repeat the poem again, carefully savoring the mood in the poem. They could not help but exclaim in unison, "Young master, you have such literary talent." Xia Bing and Yi Mingyue also looked at Linyu with admiration because of his poem. Linyu shrugged and kept a low profile. After all, with his knowledge of literature, he could easily compose dozens of such poems. But at this moment, Lin Yu and the rest, after a few turns, suddenly a fog blew toward them. When they opened their eyes, they could no longer see Shiyu and Su Feng. What's going on? Where did they go? I just blinked. How did they disappear? Lu Wuhan looked around, but he could not find Shiyu and Su Feng. There were only countless beautiful and identical peach blossom trees around them. Big dream. Lin Yu sighed helplessly. We're already in the painted fairy, Su Feng's painting. This is the big dream. Xia Bing's heart skipped a beat. Legend has it that the 5 fairies each have their own unique skills. I've also heard from a Yao clan that the painted fairy's painting is called Big Dream. This is also her famous spirit artifact. It can trap people in it as if they're trapped in a dream. They can't get out at all. Can't get out? Are those 2 women crazy? We've won the Wind Moon brothel, and they're still trying to set us up? Lu Wuhan cursed loudly. Dragon Scale looked around. Although I can't see through the mystery of this place, they don't seem to want to deal with us. They just want to trap us here. Yi Mingyue stroked her thin chin. Could this be a test? Smart. Lin Yu nodded with a smile. The 5 fairies of wind and moon, especially the most powerful one, Wine Fairy Ballad, love test the most. He sighed again. Rather than a test, it's better to say that they're toying with the world. Young master, what should we do now? Sword Addict asked anxiously. No hurry. Lin Yu stood with his hands behind his back and led the group a few more steps. They kept looking left and right along the way. Only Lin Yu did not seem to be in a hurry at all. Instead, he was admiring the blooming peach blossoms. It's rare that young master is still in the mood to admire flowers. Yi Mingyue complained. Women are so strange. Isn't admiring flowers with young master more romantic and interesting than looking for a way out? Sword Addict smiled faintly. This place was indeed beautiful. Yi Mingyue blushed. Although that's true, but before she could finish, they heard the sound of a guqin. Lin Yu smiled. I can't help but come out. He stepped out and directly approached the direction of the sound of the guqin. Long Lin and Lu Wuhan were extremely vigilant. They also followed Lin Yu at the same time. The sound of the guqin came from a pavilion deep in the peach forest. There was no one in the pavilion. When the 3 of them landed at the same time, they only saw a guqin on the stone table in the middle of the pavilion. Strange. Who's playing the guqin? Lu Wuhan looked puzzled. People are outside the painting. We're inside the painting. Naturally, we can't see it. Lin Yu took a few steps closer and saw that on the stone table in the middle of the pavilion, besides the guqin, there was also a chessboard. Yi Mingyue and the others also arrived. They saw Lin Yu's gaze fall on the chessboard. The 3 girls also began to study it. This is a dead end. Every move of the black pieces is within the white pieces' calculations. Now it's like an army under the city. No matter how the black pieces defend, it's useless. Indeed, if the black pieces make another move, their last line of defense will be broken. At that time, there's nothing we can do. Yi Mingyue and Sword Addict said respectively. Young master, this game is bound to lose. What else is there to see? Xia Bing noticed that Lin Yu's gaze was fixed on the chessboard. That's not entirely true. Lin Yu touched his chin and looked in a certain direction. Come out. Chapter 110. Everyone followed Lin Yu's gaze and saw the space ripple to the east of the pavilion. Then a bell-like voice rang out. Just as the 2 sisters said, Sir Lin is the most special man in the southern border. As soon as the voice fell, a young girl wearing a turquoise gauze leisurely walked out. Around her, ripple-like patterns were emitted. Many men in the southern border would be jealous of me, Lin Yu, to be praised by Tian Xena. Lin Yu faintly looked over and responded with a question. Xia Bing, Yi Mingwei, and the other's eyes flashed. Obviously, Lin Yu knew her again. Tian Xin Er's beautiful eyes flashed with an undetectable light. Sir Lin knows me? Lin Yu shook his head. Only chess fairy Tian Xin can set up this chess game to trap me. Tian Xin chuckled. I thought Sir Lin already knew all about us 5 sisters. That's why you dare to enter the Wind Moon clan's headquarters. I wouldn't dare to say that I know all about you, but it's close. Lin Yu smiled confidently. Tian Xin blushed. She was almost led astray by Lin Yu's words. Oh, Tian Xin smiled with interest and moved her feet lightly. Lu Wuhin and the others only caught a whiff of fragrance before they saw Tian Xin sitting on the inside of the pavilion in the direction of the white chess pieces. Since Sir Lin knows that I set up this chess game, can Xin ask Sir Lin to show me his skills? As soon as she finished speaking, Lu Wuhin said, Show what? We all saw that the white chess pieces were clearly in the bag. If you want our sir to use the black chess pieces to play with you, isn't it obvious that you're trying to trick us? Tian Xin didn't look at Lu Wuhin at all. Instead, she looked at Lin Yu expectantly, waiting for his answer. Sir, you can't. Yes, the black chess pieces don't stand a chance. Yi Mingwei and Xia Bing tried to persuade him. Tian Xin giggled. Young Master Lin is so lucky. But don't worry, sisters, I won't eat him up. Even if you lose the chess game, at most you will be trapped in this dream for 10 years. After 10 years, you can leave. Hearing this, everyone was slightly angered, especially Long Lin. A fierce aura rose. Do you want to die? Tian Xin's eyes flashed. A white chess piece in her hand suddenly rolled back from the chess bowl. She gathered power at her fingertips for a short moment before shooting it out in an instant. A life-and-death crisis arose in Long Lin's heart. The dragon scale saber appeared in front of his chest. With a clang, the white chess piece hit the dragon scale saber. It was as if it directly resisted the sword of a transcendent realm swordsman. Long Lin took a few steps back. 4 Suns Transcendent Realm. While Long Lin was still in shock, Tian Xin's fingers moved again and a white chess piece flew out. However, before this white piece could be played, it was already in Lin Yu's hands. Tian Xin's expression changed. Young Master Lin is so fast. In this world, there were plenty of people who could resist her chess skills. However, there weren't many who could catch it with their bare hands. All right, I know that you sisters wish to test others. Bring it on. The white chess piece in Lin Yu's hands turned into powder as he spoke impatiently. After being trapped for 100,000 years, he had experienced the Wind Moon 5 immortal skills. Lin Yu raised the black chess piece and placed it down. Tian Xin laughed in her heart and placed a white chess piece. From her point of view, Lin Yu's chess path indicated that he had given up on resisting. He was just waiting for his death. However, after the 3rd and 4th moves, Tian Xin's expression started to change. Young Master is hiding. It looks like he's hiding, but he's actually opening up a new path. The white chess pieces are chasing after the black chess pieces, but they can't kill all of them. On the contrary, the black chess pieces have already broken out of the encirclement. The 3 girls made their judgments at the same time. Only Tian Xin knew that not only that, Lin Yu had already started his counterattack. The 5th move, the 6th move, by the 10th move, Tian Xin's white chess piece advantage was gone. The white chess piece in her right hand trembled slightly. After hesitating for a long time, she finally dared to place it down. However, Lin Yu was already prepared for the 11th move. The moment the black chess piece was placed, the white chess piece lost the entire game. I only heard from Sister Shiyu that young Master's zither skills are unparalleled. I didn't expect you to be so good at chess as well. Tian Xin wiped the sweat off her forehead and said in admiration, You were the one who told me the solution when you were happy. Lin Yu shrugged his shoulders and almost blurted out his inner thoughts. I know a little. He smiled subtly and looked around. The surrounding scenery slowly changed. The pavilion disappeared in the blink of an eye, but the peach blossoms were still flying. Behind Tian Xn Zither immortal Shiyu and painting immortal Su Feng appeared at the same time. There was also a girl dressed in white and holding a long jade brush. She should be the fourth immortal, Book Immortal Qiu Lingshan. Lin Yu is honored to be welcomed by the four immortals, Lin Yu said lightly. The four immortals bowed at the same time. Welcome, young Master Lin, to the Wind and Moon headquarters. Lin Yu used his strength to obtain the respect he deserved. Su Feng couldn't help but smile. Tian Xn I told you that our dream was nothing to young Master Lin. Tian Xn pouted and snorted. Young Master Lin is powerful. I admit defeat. Lu Wuhan's nose twitched. What a strong wine fragrance. The four immortals smiled. She stepped forward and bowed. Sister has prepared some good wine for young master to taste. In front of her was a jade table with several cups on it. Shiyu picked up one of the cups and placed it in front of Lin Yu. Young master, please. One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Lu Wuhan immediately stopped him. Young master, they just trapped us. Lin Yu smiled. Shiyu's beautiful eyes narrowed. Su Feng said, Young master, do you think we will poison you? Tian Xn smiled and said, The Wind and Moon clan will not use wine to harm someone. Lin Yu sighed helplessly. Of course not. Wine is Ming Ji's belief. If someone uses wine to kill someone, the first one to be angry would be Ming Ge. You are not allowed to call sister by her name. Book Immortal Qiu Lingshan, who had been silent all this time, waved her right hand. A kill word appeared in the air and expanded to 10 feet in size, suppressing Lin Yu. Preposterous. Lu Wuhan took a step forward. 3 times for times. Do you think we are easy to bully? With the Phoenix Cry spear in hand, Lu Wuhan waved his spear to meet the attack. The tip of the spear turned into 3 shadows. It was the absolute dust 3 thrusts. So. The 3 thrusts landed, but the kill word only shook a little. Obviously, it was not real. Even though Lu Wuhan's spear technique was godly, it was like punching cotton. There was no effect at all. Bang bang. Lu Wuhan was hit by the kill word. He took a few steps back with a sullen expression. I really can't win, he said helplessly. The Phoenix Cry spear barely supported him. Lin Yu smiled. The reason why he did not stop them was that he wanted Lu Wuhan to suffer a little, just like Long Lin. In this way, they would not be complacent just because they won the 3 battles against the Crimson Heaven Pavilion, the Sea of Demons, and the Azure Supreme Palace. Book Immortal Qiu Lingshan did not use too much strength. At this moment, Lu Wuhan only felt a little sullen but did not suffer any injuries. Qiu Lingshan snorted. She wanted to drop the matter, but Lin Yu deliberately said, Can't you say Ming Ji's name? Chapter 111. His words enraged Qiu Lingshan once again. In the next moment, the word kill appeared in the air, once again suppressing Lin Yu. Golden hook and silver stroke, so mediocre. The corner of Lin Yu's mouth lifted as he sat down beside the guqin. His right hand gently moved on the guqin. In an instant, a wave of guqin music resounded in everyone's ears. The guqin music was like a wave, directly hitting the word kill. The word instantly dissipated, and the guqin music moved again. Qiu Lingshan's expression changed, and she retreated a dozen steps. The other 3 immortals were also shocked. She had seen Lin Yu's prowess and immediately pleaded, Fifth sister is young and impetuous. Please forgive her, young Master Lin. In an instant, Qiu Lingshan retreated to the side of the peach tree. The guqin music was like a blade that was about to cut her face, but at this moment, the guqin music suddenly changed direction and smashed into the peach tree behind Qiu Lingshan. There was a cracking sound. The peach tree broke. Qiu Lingshan turned around, her face trembling. The cut was as smooth as a mirror, as if it had been cut by an extremely sharp sword. If it had hit her face, it would have been enough to destroy her. Thank you, young Master Lin, for showing mercy. Shiyu immediately bowed. Qiu Lingshan was so scared that she couldn't speak. The other two immortals were also afraid. Tian Xian recalled how Lin Yu had caught her chess skill with his bare hands. Su Feng recalled how Lin Yu could see where Tian Xian was hiding. This young man was not simple. They looked at Lin Yu, but Lin Yu took Shi Yu's wine cup and drank it. Good wine. Lin Yu closed his eyes and savored it. Shi Yu came back to her senses. Young master, you found a problem with the virgin wine. Did you find this wine? Yi Mingyu came forward from behind and whispered in Lin Yu's ear, Young master, is this the 33 levels of heaven you mentioned before? Of course not. Lin Yu shook his head lightly. 33 levels of heaven was extremely precious. It was several times more valuable than the transcendent realm breakthrough elixir that Yi Mingyue consumed previously. Wine Immortal wouldn't take it out so easily. She was waiting for Lin Yu's reply. This was clearly another test from the Wind Moon clan. Lin Yu took his time and drank 2 more cups. Then, as if he was telling a story, he said, Legend has it that in the southern borders deep sea, there exists a type of silver fish. This fish's vitality is extremely weak, but its battle prowess is not low. Xiao Bing frowned. Ordinary fish can't reach the level of demon beasts. Even if they're powerful, they're just mortal beasts. Lin Yu shook his head. That's not the case. An adult silver fish's combat power is comparable to a transcendent realm expert. The reason why I said that their vitality is weak is because in order for the young silver fish to grow, the adult silver fish must sacrifice all of its glory aura inheritance to achieve a breakthrough in the 3rd year. Only then can the young silver fish continue to live. There's actually such a mystical species in this world. Yi Mingyue couldn't help but be surprised. Not only her, but even the Wind Moon Immortals had never heard of it. What does this have to do with the wine you're drinking? Tian Shiner couldn't help but ask. She shook her head, indicating that she had said something wrong. Let young Master Lin explain in detail. Lin Yu couldn't be bothered with her and continued. The young silver fish obtains the inheritance of the adult silver fish and continues to live. However, because of the death of its mother, the young silver fish will shed a tear at the moment of inheritance. This tear, Lin Yu shook the wine cup. It's the silver fish immortal dew. Everyone finally understood. Lu Wuhan said, How can a single tear be enough for us to drink? She looked at Lin Yu in admiration and answered Lu Wuhan's question. The silver fish is extremely huge. A single tear is equivalent to half a pot of wine. Lu Wuhan smiled. Then this wine isn't that precious. She looked at Lin Yu. What do you think, young master? The silver fish is only active in the deep sea and has the combat power of the transcendent realm. It seems simple to obtain its tear at the moment of inheritance, but in fact, it's indispensable. This cup of silver fish immortal dew is worth at least 500 million yaobaht. As soon as his voice fell, Lu Wuhan almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He finally understood why Lin Yu had been drinking the silver fish immortal dew since he spoke. It turned out that this thing was so precious. After saying that, Lu Wuhan also picked up a cup and gulped it down. Good wine. As soon as he spoke, he felt a burning sensation from his throat to his esophagus. Young master, this is... The silver fish immortal dew contains the Yao Qi overflowing when the young silver fish absorbs the adult silver fish's Yao Qi. It's extremely pure. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Sit down and cross your legs. Otherwise, when a Yao Qi explodes, you will explode and die. Lu Wuhan cursed in his heart. He thought that since Lin Yu drank 7 or 8 cups, it must be something good. Who knew that there was such a hidden danger? Lu Wuhan immediately sat down cross-legged without saying a word. Shi Yu and the other immortals chuckled. Even Long Lin said in disdain, Old Lu, don't tell others that you know me. Lu Wuhan was not in the mood to argue with him. At this moment, his face was flashing red and white. It was obvious that he had endured too much Yao Qi and needed some time to refine it. Shi Yu stopped laughing and looked at Lin Yu in surprise. Young master, you're only at the 4 ignition samsara realm, but you can withstand 8 cups of silver fish immortal dew. You're really amazing. She had drunk the silver fish immortal dew before. It was an excellent supplement for cultivation, but she would only drink 2 cups at most. However, Lin Yu drank 8 cups, and his face was not red, and he was not out of breath. Lu Wuhen was the best comparison. Maybe I'm good at drinking. Lin Yu was too lazy to explain. The nirvana fruit and the great void 8 divisions were the best treasures for refining Yao Qi. Of course, he did not need to expose them. Seeing this, she did not ask anymore. The 4 immortals stood on both sides at the same time. Patriarch is waiting for young master. Wait for me here. Lin Yu instructed Yi Mingwei and the others and went in alone. Long Lin glanced at Lu Wuhen. Is this wine really that powerful? Try it yourself. Lu Wuhen said in annoyance. I saw young master drinking another cup before leaving. After 9 cups, he didn't feel anything at all. Is it because you're too weak? Long Lin mocked. Lu Wuhen picked up the last cup of silver fish immortal dew. Drink it if you can. Fine, I'll drink it. Long Lin's expression changed drastically after drinking the cup. He immediately sat down cross-legged to refine the Yao Qi. The 7 women smiled in unison. However, the 4 immortals could not help but look at the place where Lin Yu had left. Even Big Sister can't withstand 5 cups of silver fish immortal dew. Big Sister's cultivation is so profound that Lin Yu's samsara cultivation is not comparable to her. But why is he so powerful? Shiyu and Su Feng said one after another. Lin Yu was like a cloud of fog that they could not see through, but he was very powerful. Inside the Wind and Moon headquarters, the fragrance of wine assailed his nostrils. Lin Yu only felt relaxed and happy. He walked across a 2-feet-long wooden bridge and listened to the gurgling river water under the bridge. The river water seemed to be made of wine. At the end of the river was a waterfall. The waterfall did not flow down, but flowed backward, rolling up the river of wine. It looked like a waterfall, but it was more like a huge water wheel. Yao Clan's helper Lin Yu requests an audience with Wine Immortal. Chapter 112. Come in. The door opened. A different kind of wine fragrance came to his nose. Lin Yu took a deep breath. The corner of his mouth was slightly raised and entered the room. He saw a woman lying on her side on a big bed covered with petals. Beside this big bed, there were dozens of bottles of wine of various sizes. The woman looked to be in her early 20s, with delicate facial features, like a beauty walking out of a painting. Especially on her white cheeks, there were a few strands of crimson at the moment, coupled with a red muslin outlining a hot figure. At this moment, lying lazily on the bed, it gave people a kind of infinite reverie. Wine so. Lin Yu was just about to speak when he was shushed by the woman. He saw that she continued to close her eyes, red lips slightly opened, white teeth as white as snow nibbled on the side of the wine glass, and took another sip. But the woman's brow wrinkled, and with a flick of her hand, the wine glass in her hand burst directly. The woman stood up, and her beautiful eyes fell on Lin Yu. If it were anyone else, they would definitely be confused under this pair of bright eyes. That was the gaze of a long-term superior and the gaze of a stunning woman. This kind of gaze was the easiest to arouse a man's possessiveness. But such a woman was also the most difficult woman to control. You are the winner of this Feng Yu gathering? Lin Yu nodded. Except for the good looks, there doesn't seem to be anything special. You can go. The wine immortal actually ordered the guest to leave in 2 sentences. But Lin Yu smiled gently, as if these were all within his expectations. The wine immortal ballad. Such a person. There was nothing in her eyes, only the strong and the wine. At least in her view, Lin Yu in front of her had nothing to do with these 2 things. You want to add drunken dreaming to the 33 levels of heaven. You haven't entered the invincible realm, of course, you can't do it. The wine immortal was originally indifferent, and had already laid down, but because of Lin Yu's words, he suddenly got up. The red muslin teleported, and the wine immortal appeared in front of Lin Yu. His right hand instantly clasped Lin Yu's throat, and the cold feeling came from Lin Yu's throat. Who are you? How do you know about the 33 levels of heaven and drunken dreaming? I just said it, but I have never heard of the name Lin Yu. You are not from the south. I am from the north. The north is said to have 3 new emperors. Are you fleeing? Lin Yu shook his head. I'm looking for the Buddha Emperor. Wine Immortal frowned. The Buddha Emperor is not someone you can find just because you want to. You haven't answered my question. Lin Yu shrugged. The 33 levels of heaven is passed down by the wind and moon great sage. If you want to know, you just need to understand the history of the wind and moon family. As for drunken dreaming, that is the signature wine of the Wine Immortal ballad. I want to know, it is not difficult. The Wine Immortal's beautiful face flashed a murderous look. You should know that this is not the answer. It is easy to know the name, but how do you know that these are drunken dreaming and the 33 levels of heaven? Lin Yu knew that he had completely attracted the attention of the Wine Immortal ballad, smiled and said, the number of wine jugs, 34, the 33 levels of heaven is a mixture of 33 kinds of special wine, plus a cup of drunken dreaming, exactly 34 wine jugs. The Wine Immortal loosened his hand. It seems that you have some eyesight. Unfortunately, you are not smart and have made a big mistake. Wine Immortal, please say, you should know the origin of the Sacred Heart Cauldron and the Black Tortoise Sword, right? More than 10 years ago, they belonged to the Yao and Sword clans, then fell into the hands of the Wind and Moon clan. The Wind and Moon clan did not want to offend the two clans at the same time and did not want to hand over the two treasures directly, lest the 7 clans of the southern border think that you are afraid of the Yao and Sword clans. So this Wind and Moon gathering was held. The Wine Immortal frowned. There was some surprise on his face. Since you have seen through everything, why do you still want to keep the trouble in your hands? Because they are 2 treasures. Lin Yu suddenly raised the corner of his mouth. Moreover, the Wind and Moon clan does not dare to offend the Yao and Sword clans, does not mean that I do not dare to offend them. Good boy. The Wine Immortal was angry. Instantly the earth shook. A majestic wave of Yao Qi came over like a landslide. Lin Yu sighed softly, not at all bothered by the Wine Immortal's angry temper. Since I dared to offend the Yao and Sword clans, I naturally dare to offend you. With the 8 clans surging in the dark, with your cultivation level that has not reached the invincible realm, can you withstand the 1,000 years of the Wind and Moon clan's foundation? Before he finished speaking, the pressure engulfed Lin Yu, but the Sacred Heart Cauldron appeared in Lin Yu's right hand, swallowing the Yao Qi pressure directly. The Sacred Heart Cauldron was not as huge as it was in the Wind and Moon brothel, but now it was countless times smaller, spinning in Lin Yu's palm. I have studied the Yao clan's treasure for many years, and still could not use it. How can you control it? The Wine Immortal was very surprised. You can't control it, but it does not mean that I can't. Just like you want to study the 34th heaven to deal with the upcoming war, but you don't have the confidence to stop them, I do. Arrogant. Xianggu interrupted Lin Yu. You are from the north, and you dare to offend the 8 clans when you just arrived, and you want to find the Buddha Emperor's whereabouts. And now you are lying. You are too confident. Confidence comes from strength. Lin Yu knew that to win the Wine Immortal's trust and achieve his goal, he still needed something powerful. The Blacklist emissary is also looking for the Buddha Emperor, right? Xiang Ji's pretty face changed. Needless to say, Lin Yu was right. Lin Yu not only knew that the girl riding the koan came to see her first, but he also guessed her motive. Without waiting for Xianggu to speak, Lin Yu said, the Buddha Emperor's cultivation is not as good as before, and he is injured. Although the injury is not serious, it will take a long time for him to recover, so he went into hiding. Xianggu felt a chill down her spine. Since Lin Yu came in, he had said something shocking again and again, every word he said. Even with Xiang Ji's status and state of mind, she could not help but be shocked. The Buddha Emperor is a supreme master of the Grand Supreme Realm, the Emperor of the South. Not to mention that no one can hurt him. Even if they can, he is already invincible in the South. Why does he need to hide? Xianggu pretended to blame him. You are misleading people with your lies. You are from the North, and you obviously have bad intentions towards the South. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Lin Yu shrugged. If the Buddha Emperor was at his peak, why do you need to be so afraid of me, a person from the North? Xianggu was speechless. Lin Yu's words were very logical. If she said anything more, she would be admitting it. Lin Yu continued. The medicine and sword clans are not the only ones who want to go against the Wind Moon clan. The Imperial Beast clan, Nangon clan, Southern Wilderness, and the Gravediggers, besides the Buddhist Hall, 6 of the 8 clans in the south see the Wind Moon clan as a thorn in their side. All of this comes from the other side of the Wind Moon tree, where the Thousand Buddha Hall is. Xiang Ji's body trembled for the first time. Are you the power behind the 6 clans? Chapter 113. She couldn't think of anyone else who could analyze the situation of the southern border 8 clans so thoroughly, other than the mysterious undercurrent that even the 9-headed Buddha Emperor was afraid of, who had been lurking in the southern border and manipulating the 8 clans. If I'm one of them, why would I provoke the Sword and Yao clans? Now, I can answer your other question. Although the Buddha Emperor is a Grand Supreme expert, someone has injured him. Although the opponent has not reached the Grand Supreme level, it is still possible to use some opportunistic means to trick the Buddha Emperor. Lin Yu saw the change in Xiang Ji's expression. His 100,000 years of experience told him that the more powerful a woman was, the better it would be to conquer her. At the same time, the reason why he has to hide in his own territory is that the person who injured him has infiltrated the 8 clans of the southern border. He doesn't know who among the 8 clans will betray him, so he can only trust the 2 clans in charge of the 10,000 Buddha Hall, the Wind Moon clan and the Buddha Hall. Xianggu was speechless. Lin Yu's every word was precise. Besides, no one else knew these secrets except for the highest authority of the Wind Moon clan and the Buddha Hall. In the Wind Moon clan, only she and the 4 immortals knew. The other tens of thousands of people knew nothing. Lin Yu knew that the status of the conversation between the 2 had been balanced. I'm here to make a deal with you. I'll solve the undercurrent of the 8 clans for you, and you'll help me enter the 10,000 Buddha Hall. Also, what else? Xianggu was obviously moved by Lin Yu's words. Also, I want a pot of the purest Tristrimsa heaven. Impossible, Lin Yu said calmly. You can think about it. I can accept the terms, but I don't trust you. Xiang Ji's attitude seemed tough, but her tone was no longer as domineering as before. She had obviously given in. Even if you know these, I still won't trust you because you're from an unknown background. I'll help you solve the problem of the Yao and Sword clans to show my sincerity. How about that? Sure. Xianggun nodded immediately. It was a very tempting offer. She could make Lin Yu take the initiative to help her deal with the 2 enemies of the Wind Moon clan without any effort. She couldn't be happier. The relationship between the Yao clan and the Sword clan is very complicated. However, it seems that you are very confident. She picked up 2 jugs of wine and handed one to Lin Yu. I, Jiu Xian, agree to your deal. Cheers. It is reasonable to talk about things with Jiu Xian and drink a glass of wine. However, the corners of Lin Yu's mouth curled up. After drinking the entire cup, he clasped his fists and left. After the Sword tribe and the Yao tribe are settled, please remember the deal you made with Lin Yu. That is natural. Wine Immortal is very satisfied with this glass of wine. Outside the headquarters, beside the Guqin, Lu Wuhin and Long Lin refined the medicinal efficacy of the Silverfish Immortal Do one after another. But at this moment, he began to worry about Lin Yu. Young Master has been in there for so long. Will he be all right? Jiu Xian is the current clan leader of the Wind Moon clan. I heard that his cultivation and temper are very strong. I wonder if young Master can handle him. Sword Fanatic and Xia Bing were worried. Yi Mingyue's beautiful eyes flashed with certainty. She smiled faintly. There is no woman in this world that he can't handle. Her tone was 30% coquettish and 70% trusting. If it weren't for the fact that most of the people present were women and that Long Lin and Lu Wuhin were martial arts fanatics, they would have been tempted by Yi Mingyue's words. This lady is very confident in your young master. Yes, we also believe that there is no man in this world that Sister Jiu Xian can't handle. Tian Xen, and Qiu Lingshan refuted one after another. Then let's wait and see. Yi Mingyue snorted and didn't say anything else. However, at this moment, Lin Yu had already walked out. He didn't immediately go to Yi Mingyue and the others. Instead, he lingered by the river for a while. Young Master, this is? When she saw him walking over, he was holding a blade of grass and a flower in his hand. However, the four immortals also saw that Lin Yu was calm and unscathed. Obviously, it was as Yi Mingwei said. It seemed that at least Lin Yu and Jiu Xian were on par for the time being. Nothing. I just saw that the fragrant grass and colorless flowers here are blooming well, so I borrowed them. Lin Yu smiled, and a black flame suddenly burned in his hand. As soon as the blazing true sun fire appeared, the four immortals' expressions changed immediately. What a powerful fire! It's not an ordinary flame cultivation technique, nor is it the flame aura of the nine suns' transcendent realm. Shiyu and Su Feng said seriously at the same time. Under the true sun fire, the flower and grass instantly melted and turned into two pure medicinal powers. Lin Yu's 5 fingers formed a claw and sucked it in the air. At the same time, a few more herbs flew out from Lin Yu's storage ring. They were all mixed together. This is alchemy? Shiyu frowned. Xia Bing immediately said, "Young master, you can't. Without the pill furnace, the backlash of the medicinal power will hurt you." The four immortals returned to their senses and also felt that Lin Yu was doing something stupid. Young master always scares people to death every time he does something. Yi Mingyue smiled beautifully, but she didn't really stop him. Sword Fanatic recalled the scene when she first saw Lin Yu, and she suddenly felt a little nostalgic. She knew that Lin Yu's alchemy was absolutely fine. Sure enough, the phenomenon of the backlash of the medicinal power did not appear. The two medicinal powers followed the guidance of the true sun fire and directly merged into one elixir. No pill fragrance. I heard that if the elixir is successfully refined, the elixir fragrance will overflow at the moment of core formation. It's extremely refreshing. Then obviously he failed. Qiu Lingshan, Su Feng, and Tian Shiner judged one after another. Xia Bing felt a little strange. "Young master, can you take a look at the elixir?" Lin Yu nodded. Although he was a little anxious to eat the elixir, he shouldn't die in a short time. With a flick of his finger, the elixir fell into Xia Bing's hand. Xia Bing couldn't speak for a long time. However, only she, as the successor of the Yao clan, had the most attainments in alchemy here. Since she didn't speak, the others couldn't say anything either. Half a cup of tea later, Xia Bing held the elixir with both hands and respectfully handed it back to Lin Yu. Lin Yu didn't say much and directly swallowed it. Fortunately, that lousy wine hasn't spread through my internal organs. Lin Yu rejoiced in his heart. However, Xia Bing said in shock, "Young master's alchemy skills are probably only comparable to Grandpa in the Yao clan." Lin Yu didn't think much of it and said, "Oh." However, this sentence made the four immortals' expressions change again. Is Miss Xia joking? What's so powerful about an elixir without pill fragrance? Yeah, could it be that in order to praise young Master Lin, she also deceived us? Su Feng and Tian Shiner questioned Xia Bing one after another. Moreover, Xia Bing even said that Lin Yu's alchemy skills were on par with her grandfather, the current patriarch of the Yao clan and the #1 alchemist in the southern border. Lin Yu was still wet behind the ears. If they believed Xia Bing's words, they would really have seen a ghost. Xia Bing's pretty face was slightly angry as she refuted the four immortals. Even if I, Xia Bing, don't know much about alchemy, the alchemy skills passed down by the Yao clan can't be wrong. Everyone was shocked to see that Xia Bing was actually so angry. Chapter 114. Although the elixir refined by the young master has no fragrance, the medicinal power is contained within the elixir. The elixir is so perfect that the fragrance has no chance to escape. This kind of tasteless elixir is the best among elixirs. You don't understand it at all. After Xia Bing finished speaking, the rest of the people did not understand. But more than that, they were shocked by Lin Yu. He just refined the best elixir that Xia Bing mentioned in a few seconds. The four immortals obviously did not believe it. Lin Yu did not waste any more time. "We have other things to do, so we'll take our leave first." With that, he led his people and left the Wind and Moon headquarters. They went straight from the headquarters to the Wind and Moon brothel, and then to the exit. This time, they left very smoothly, and there was no more trouble like Su Feng and Tian Xer. Just after Lin Yu and the rest left, Yao Gu sent a message to the four immortals. He's gone? Yes, sister. Shi Yu answered. When he left, was there anything unusual? Yao Ji's sudden question puzzled the four immortals. No. After Shi Yu answered, a trace of surprise flashed in Yao Ji's beautiful eyes. Strange, he drank a cup of drunken dream. But there was nothing unusual at all? Drunken dream. The four immortals were all shocked. Drunken dream was not poison, and Yao Gu would not poison the wine. But it was a kind of wine that imprisoned the bloodline. Those who were poisoned with drunken dream would have a kind of medicinal power in their bloodline, and this medicinal power was controlled by Jiu Xian. Once an ordinary person went against Jiu Xian, their cultivation would be completely restrained by him. Those who were poisoned with drunken dream would have their cultivation stagnated for a moment, and their faces would show pain. But if they did not go against me, the medicinal power would be beneficial. Jiu Xian shook his head, but he did not show any signs. Strange. Tian Xer clapped her hands. Sister, before he left, he refined an elixir? Yao Gu looked at her in annoyance. Silly, he was just a helper invited by the Yao clan, not a real member of the clan. How could he know how to refine elixirs? As soon as Yao Gu finished speaking, she noticed that the four of them were silent. She immediately felt that something was wrong. Tell me more about it. After the four of them explained, Rumble's breathing quickened. Colorless flower, fragrant grass. How'd he know the way to get rid of my drunkenness? The minds of Xie and the other three were also filled with shock. If Jiu Xian's unique wine, Drunk in a Dream, was so easily cracked by Lin Yu, then the Wind Moon clan would be in danger. Sister, should we send someone to investigate him? That's right. If he reveals the method to detoxify alcohol, who would be afraid of our Wind Moon clan? Su Feng and Tian Xen said one after another. No, he will come to me himself. After Xian Gu finished speaking, the fear in her eyes intensified. It was not that she did not want to investigate Yu's background. This person's every move was enough to shock her Wind Moon clan and even become her mortal enemy. However, it was precisely because Lin Yu was too powerful that she didn't dare to investigate. Such a person was willing to take the initiative to make a deal with her. She finally felt a little relieved, because if Lin Yu were to become her enemy, then based on the information he knew, he would become the Wind Moon clan's #1 enemy. Lin Yu and the others left the Wind Moon brothel. Along the way, Xia Bing seemed to have a lot on her mind. Lin Yu naturally knew this. He used Xia Bing's identity as one of the 8 to enter the Wind Moon brothel. Now that he had obtained the Black Tortoise Sword, the Sacred Heart Cauldron should theoretically be given to Xia Bing. As expected, outside the Wind Moon brothel, Xia Zhan and the others were already waiting for them. Daughter, I heard that you won a great victory. Not only did you obtain the Sacred Heart Cauldron, but you also obtained the Black Tortoise Sword? Xia Zhan's old eyes revealed a rare look of admiration. When he saw Xia Bing and the others appear, he immediately went up to them. He didn't believe it at first. However, when Xia Guangshan returned, he flew into a rage. Coupled with the news from the Wind Moon brothel, it was already confirmed that Xia Bing had won a great victory. Moreover, the Wind Moon clan leader personally met her. It's all thanks to young Master Lin and the others that we were able to gain this time. This was Xia Bing's first sentence. Lin Yu and the others had defeated several powerful opponents in a row and only obtained 2 treasures. She didn't dare to claim credit for this. However, even though Xia Bing said so, Xia Zhan still didn't look at Lin Yu and the others. What about the Sacred Heart Cauldron? When Xia Bing heard this, she looked at Lin Yu with a troubled expression. Lin Yu couldn't be bothered with Xia Zhan's attitude. With a flash of his storage ring, the Sacred Heart Cauldron had already shrunk to the size of a fist and was handed to Xia Bing. Since it's over, Lin Yu and the others will take their leave. He had already fulfilled his promise to Xia Bing, and the Black Tortoise Sword was already in his possession. There wasn't much to keep. Haha, Xia Bing has really made us proud this time. Suddenly, Xia Jie's voice sounded. Xia Bing and Xia Zhan's expressions changed slightly at the same time. Especially the latter, who bowed respectfully to Xia Jie. Big brother is here. Second brother, you don't have to be so polite. Xia Jie immediately supported Xia Zhan, as if afraid that he would bow. This action surprised Xia Zhan. He already knew that Xia Bing and Xia Guangshan had a fight in the Wind Moon Gathering. Logically speaking, if Xia Jie was acting like usual, he would use this as an excuse to denounce him. However, Xia Jie seemed to be in a good mood now. Not only did he not blame him and Xia Bing, but he was also very polite. Xia Bing has made a great contribution to the Yao clan this time. Not only did she get back the Sacred Heart Cauldron, but she also got back the Black Tortoise Sword. He laughed and said to Xia Bing, "If Guangshan offended you in any way in the past, as his uncle, I apologize." Xia Bing is fine. "Uncle, you don't have to do this." Xia Bing bowed in response. Her heart tightened. After all these years, she had learned about Xia Jie's character. He was a person who only cared about profits and was as sinister as a snake. Now that her son was injured, why was he suddenly smiling at her? However, Xia Bing recalled his words and immediately had a bad feeling. She said to Lin Yu, "Young Master Lin, there's nothing else here. Please leave." It sounded like she was asking Lin Yu to leave. However, Lin Yu knew what had happened. He knew about the Yao clan, but what he knew the most was the old patriarch's illness. "Then let's go." Lin Yu turned around. However, Xia Jie immediately shouted, "Wait." Xia Bing immediately stood in front of Xia Jie. "Uncle, they have completed their mission. There's no need to stay here." Then, she rubbed her shoulder against Lin Yu, indicating that he should leave. "I said wait. Don't you understand?" Xia Jie's expression changed quickly. He stared at Lin Yu like a poisonous snake staring at its prey. "Where's the Black Tortoise Sword?" Xia Bing knew that what she was most worried about had happened. "Uncle, the Black Tortoise Sword is their reward. I've already made the decision to give it to young Master Lin." "You made the decision?" Xia Jie smiled disdainfully. He didn't look at Xia Bing. Instead, he glanced at Xia Zhan. "Second brother, your daughter is really bold. The Black Tortoise Sword is a supreme treasure, but she made the decision to give it to an outsider. Did you agree to this?" "No, big brother. I didn't know about this at all." Xia Zhan's heart trembled. He immediately ordered Xia Bing, "Give me the Black Tortoise Sword too." Chapter 115. "Father, I've promised young Master Lin." They exchanged the Black Tortoise Sword and Sacred Heart Cauldron with their lives. Xia Bing gritted her teeth. Her heart felt as if it had fallen into the depths of winter. She had never thought that her father and uncle would be so shameless. So what? They represent the Yao clan. The Black Tortoise Sword and Sacred Heart Cauldron belong to the Yao clan. Xia Zhan said coldly. He didn't notice that Xia Bing's eyes were gradually turning red. "What if I don't give it to them?" Xia Bing said word by word. "Good daughter. Second brother, you have a good daughter." Xia Jie burst into laughter. "I thought you were capable after injuring Guangshan. I didn't expect you to be so capable." His words seemed to be directed at Xia Bing, but it made Xia Zhan's expression turn ugly. Didn't this mean that he couldn't control his daughter anymore? "Xia Bing, the Yao clan won't give up the treasures. Leave the Black Tortoise Sword and Sacred Heart Cauldron to me." "I refuse." Xia Bing's words were like icicles. This time, she wouldn't give in. Behind him, Lin Yu looked calm. In fact, he had already guessed the current situation. That was why he asked Xia Bing several times. He knew that Xia Bing was the one with the most bottom line in the Yao clan. "I dare you to say that again." Xia Zhan's old face was extremely gloomy. "I refuse." Xia Bing didn't hesitate at all. She clenched her jade-like hands in her long sleeves. Her face was filled with determination. However, as soon as she finished speaking, she heard a slap. A bloody palm print appeared on Xia Bing's snow-white left cheek. "Second brother, you don't have to do it even if you can't control your daughter, right?" Xia Jie said with a faint smile. Xia Zhan still raised his hand. He knew that Xia Jie and the other members of the Yao clan were laughing at him. If he couldn't control Xia Bing today, he would really embarrass the entire clan. "Are you giving it to me or not?" "No, it belongs to young Master Lin." Whoosh! The slap landed again. Xiaobing closed her eyes, but the slap didn't land on her face. Xiaobing slowly opened her eyes and saw that Xia Zhan's hand had stopped 3 inches above her head and hadn't landed. She had thought that her father still had some conscience. But in the next moment, she saw Xia Zhan's wrist being grabbed by a slender but firm hand. She immediately understood. Lin Yu had blocked Xia Zhan for her. Impudent! You dare stop me? Why wouldn't I dare? Seeing that Xia Zhan wanted to withdraw his hand, Lin Yu increased the strength of his hand. Xia Zhan's expression immediately changed, and he knew that things weren't going well. This brat was a combat cultivator. Even Xia Zhan was unable to withstand the powerful hand strength. In terms of cultivation, he was much stronger than Lin Yu, but in terms of strength, he was slightly weaker than Lin Yu. However, Lin Yu did not want to waste time with him. He casually flung Xia Zhan away, and Xia Zhan took a step back. Don't even think about leaving today, Xia Jie ordered. All of a sudden, everyone from the Yao clan surrounded him. Xiaobing's expression changed drastically. She pulled Lin Yu's hand and said, "Young Master Lin, you go first. I'll stay here." Lin Yu smiled helplessly. "If you stay here alone, I'm afraid you'll wish you were dead." Xiaobing was stunned. She knew how Xia Zhan would deal with her. This father of hers had already disappointed her to the core. "I'll take you with me. Are you willing?" Lin Yu asked again. Xiaobing nodded heavily without hesitation. "Ridiculous. Don't even think about leaving today." As Xia Jie's voice sounded again, the Yao clan members immediately surrounded them. Lu Wuhin, Long Lin, and the others had watched the entire process and could not help but want to make a move. Suddenly, the Sacred Heart Cauldron in Xiaobing's hand rose up. Everyone was stunned. They did not know why the cauldron would move at this time. "Young Master Lin." Xiaobing suddenly realized that the Sacred Heart Cauldron was not under her control. But in the next moment, the Sacred Heart Cauldron made cracking sounds as if it was about to explode. "Damn it! What are you doing?" Xia Jie and Xia Zhan shouted at the same time. They could bully Xiaobing and Lin Yu's group. However, if anything happened to the Sacred Heart Cauldron, their father, the Xia clan leader, would lose his life-saving treasure. They would not be able to atone for their sins, even if they died a few times. "Do you need me to say more?" Lin Yu's cold voice sounded. Xia Jie and Xia Zhan's expressions changed at the same time. The former immediately said, "Make way." Then, the Yao clan members opened up a path behind them. Lin Yu stood with his hands behind his back. He raised his right hand, and the Sacred Heart Cauldron fell into his hand. "If I want to destroy it, I only need a breath's time. If you're confident that you can take the Sacred Heart Cauldron away in a breath's time, then come." His voice echoed in the surroundings. Xia Jie and Xia Zhan's expressions were as ugly as they could be. They could not do anything to Lin Yu. The rest of the Yao clan members could only watch as Lin Yu led everyone away. No one dared to stop them. How did he do it? Did the Sacred Heart Cauldron recognize him as its master? Xia Zhan and Xia Jie were defeated, but they knew that they could not keep Xiaobing and the others. "Big brother, this matter was caused by your good daughter. I will tell father about this matter. You're on your own now." After saying that, Xia Jie snorted and left. Only Xia Zhan, whose eyes were bloodshot, was left behind. Damn it, he came back to his senses. If he had not listened to Xia Jie and taken the Sacred Heart Cauldron away, the current situation would not have happened. Now, not only was his credit gone, but the Sacred Heart Cauldron might even be destroyed because of Lin Yu. Young Master is so powerful. You seem to have guessed it. I have a feeling that everything is going according to Young Master's plan. The Sacred Heart Cauldron would not explode for no reason. It must be Young Master's doing. Lu Wuhin and Yi Mingwei said one after the other. Xiaobing turned around and saw that she was already far away from the Yao clan members. They did not chase after her. The Yao clan members knew that if they chased after her and angered Lin Yu, the Sacred Heart Cauldron would explode in a breath's time. This was no different from killing the Yao clan leader. Who could bear the responsibility? Seeing that everyone was safe, Xiaobing bowed to Lin Yu. "Young Master Lin, please forgive me." "What crime?" Xiaobing said that she would give the black tortoise sword to Young Master Lin. But what? The black tortoise sword and the Sacred Heart Cauldron are still in my hands. Lin Yu said lightly. Xia Bing's body trembled slightly. She came back to her senses and bowed. Young master, you are so smart. Did you really know from the beginning? I know Xia Zhan and Xia Jie well. Lin Yu explained. But at this moment, a few sword chi landed in front of everyone. Who is it? Lu Wuhan was alert. He held the phoenix spear in his hand and was ready to fight. Long Lin was the same. After the sword chi, a few figures walked over. They were the Sword Clan members from the Wind Moon Gathering. I am Jian Jing from the Sword Clan. I am here to invite young Master Lin, Miss Xia, and the rest to the Sword Clan as guests. The person who came with the group bowed with his fists. Is this the right attitude to invite people as guests? Lu Wuhan pointed his spear at the remaining sword chi on the ground and asked. Jian Jing bowed with a smile. Please don't be offended. This is the Sword Clan's unique way of inviting people. Just get used to it. Lin Yu could not be bothered with these details. Who invited us? Chapter 116. Jian Jing's expression changed slightly. Eldest sword son. All right. Lin Yu immediately agreed. The others' expressions changed. They did not expect Lin Yu to be so forthright. Then, please. The sword race members made way for them. Who's the eldest sword son? Lu Wuhan asked in a low voice. Before Lin Yu could answer, Jian Fanatic had already pulled on Lin Yu's sleeve. Young master, the eldest sword son is very dangerous. When everyone saw Jian Fanatic's face, they were shocked to find that her face had turned extremely pale. Fanatic, do you know something? Lu Wuhan had a bad feeling. Jian Fanatic nodded. The sword race's patriarch, the sword sovereign, had 2 sons. Because of their peerless talent in the sword Dao, they were named the 2 eldest sword sons. This eldest sword son is the sword sovereign's eldest son. Lu Wuhan asked. Jian Fanatic shook her head. No, the eldest son has passed away. The current eldest sword son is the sword sovereign's second son, Jian Qiyun. Jian Jing, who was leading the group, turned his head. Everyone, let's board the warship. Jian Fanatic pulled on Lin Yu and shook her head. Young master, it's too dangerous. It's fine. Lin Yu patted her hand. The thick obsidian qi nourished Jian Fanatic's body. It was also at this moment that Sword Fanatic felt his nervousness lessen significantly. When they boarded the warship, many sword race members were already there to welcome them. The leader was Jian Shun, who had been defeated by Lin Yu. Young Master Lin, how have you been? To be able to forget Jian Shuang's death and talk to me calmly. The junior sword sovereign has a bright future. Lin Yu smiled faintly. It was like an elder brother looking up to his younger brother. Jian Shen's eyes could not help but flash with a trace of murderous intent. However, he hid this murderous intent very well. This time, my father invited you in hopes that young Master Lin can return the Black Tortoise sword to the sword race. I got the Black Tortoise sword from the Wind Moon clan. How can I return it? Now that the 8 clans know the results of the Wind Cloud Gathering, does the Sword Clan still want to snatch it? Lin Yu replied in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. He did not seem to be afraid, even though this was Jian Shen's territory. The other members of the sword race looked at Lin Yu with contempt. It was as if they were looking at a dead man. Young Master Lin is right. The sword race is not unreasonable. Young Master Lin indeed obtained the Black Tortoise sword with his own strength. Jian Shen's tone was filled with sincerity. Clearly, he was not a frivolous person. Even though Jian Shuang had grown up with him and had died at the hands of Lin Yu, he also understood that he could not defeat Lin Yu. Or it could be said that the sword race did not have an honorable method to kill Lin Yu and take back the Black Tortoise sword. This time, my father invited young Master Lin to the Sword Tribe to discuss the fair trade of the Black Tortoise sword. Let's go then. Lin Yu did not say anything else. Under the guidance of the sword race's servants, he found a remote corner of the battleship and sat down. From time to time, the sword race's members would look over. There was fear and killing intent in their eyes. Lu Wuhan looked around and saw that the sword race's members were 20 feet away. He whispered to Lin Yu, "So the junior sword venerable's father is the great sword son, Jian Qiyun." Xiaobing also said warily, Junior Sword Venerable is just a title. However, the title of Sword Son already represents the future master of the sword race. I once heard from the people of the 8 races that Jian Qiyun is the current highest authority of the sword race. Isn't there an even more powerful sword venerable? Yi Mingwe asked. Xiaobing shook her head and said, I heard that the sword venerable went into seclusion 10 years ago after his eldest son, Jian Lingtian, died. He has not come out since then. Someone once said that he went into qi deviation because he missed his eldest son too much. Now, his cultivation and sword Dao are not as good as before. Sword Fanatic's beautiful eyes had a rare anger. If he really cared about his eldest son, he wouldn't have killed everyone in his bloodline. Everyone except Lin Yu's face changed drastically. Xia Bing said in shock, Didn't his eldest son, Jian Lingtian, die suddenly? How could the sword venerable kill his own son? Yi Mingyue suddenly thought of something and pressed Sword Fanatic's hand. Fanatic, are you also from a sword race? Sword Fanatic's delicate body trembled. She saw that everyone's eyes were on her. They were not fools. Sword Fanatic knew so much about the sword race, and also used Jian as her surname. How could it not arouse their suspicion? Sword Fanatic did not know what to do. She did not dare to expose her identity. She was worried that it would bring disaster to her companions. 13 years ago, the sword race's main bloodline, Jian Lingtian, was conferred the title of Great Sword Son. His cultivation was at the Transcendent Realm. As long as he touches the threshold of the Invincible Realm, he can inherit the position of the sword race's patriarch. Lin Yu suddenly said. Everyone's attention shifted from Sword Fanatic to Lin Yu. Sword Fanatic also heaved a sigh of relief. Her jade-like hands clenched tightly under the table. But suddenly, a pair of familiar hands grabbed her. Lin Yu was sitting next to her. Sword Fanatic felt incomparable warmth and courage from this hand. She took a deep breath and listened to Lin Yu. But one night 13 years ago, Jian Lingtian, who was in the limelight, suddenly went into qi deviation. His cultivation was destroyed, and he became the sword race's trash. In the same month, his only younger brother became the sword son. That person was Jian Qiyun. 3 years later, all the resources and hearts that once belonged to Jian Lingtian were all poured into Jian Qiyun because Jian Lingtian's cultivation was destroyed. What's more interesting is that when everyone gradually forgot about Jian Lingtian's past glory, his daughter displayed astonishing talent in the sword Dao. As soon as Lin Yu finished speaking, Xia Bing's beautiful eyes narrowed. I've never heard of Jian Lingtian having a daughter. If he really did have a daughter, she should be around 14 or 15 years old now. Sword Fanatic's eyes reddened. Lin Yu did not say her name. Unfortunately, Jian Lingtian could no longer protect his daughter at that time. Why? Even if his cultivation was destroyed, he was still the sword venerable son. How could he not protect his daughter? An ordinary man's wealth is his own ruin. Jian Shun was 2 years older than Jian Lingtian's daughter, but he was no match for her in the sword Dao. So, before Lin Yu could finish, Yi Mingwe had already added, so Jian Qian would not allow this female sword cultivator to have a chance to grow. She had lived under the protection of the Night King since she was young. The Night King had no children. To a certain extent, it was because he wanted to protect Yi Mingwe. He would rather have only one daughter than see his children kill each other and fight for the Night King city's century-old foundation. Smart. Lin Yu praised Yi Mingwe. Yi Mingwe smiled faintly and guessed. Jian Lingtian should have guessed this as well. After all, he was once a genius of the Sword Clan. That's right. Lin Yu nodded and said, Jian Lingtian knew that his daughter was in danger and tried to send her away. But soon, Jian Lingtian's branch, which was already suppressed by Jian Qiyun's branch to the point of suffocation, faced another calamity. What calamity? Everyone asked in unison. Sword Fanatic's tears fell. Chapter 117. Lin Yu sighed softly. Forget it. Let's talk about it when we reach the Sword Tribe. My deal with the Drunken Immortal is also related to the Sword Tribe. Lin Yu stopped talking, but everyone saw the Sword Fanatic's reaction. Yi Mingwe, Xia Bing, and the other girls were careful. They knew what was going on. Under Lin Yu's signal, they comforted the sword fanatic. The night was getting late. Today's Fengyu gathering was a great success. However, Lin Yu and the others had boarded the pirate ship again. Lu Wuhin and the others knew that with a leader like Lin Yu around, there was nothing to be afraid of. He could escape from Xia Jie twice without losing a single soldier. He might be able to do the same against Jian Qiyun. However, they were on the Sword Tribe's battleship now. Naturally, they were worried. The stars in the south were brighter than the north. Lin Yu, Long Lin, and Lu Wuhin stood at the edge of the deck. There might be a fierce battle on this trip, but I believe that the little sacred king already has a plan. Lu Wuhin and Long Lin said, especially Long Lin. His tone was full of trust for Lin Yu. It was as if the little sacred king that he spoke of would never fail in anything. I'm going to the Sword Tribe for two things, Lin Yu said. Lu Wuhin and Long Lin listened attentively. First, it's because of the sword fanatic. She's Jian Lingtian's daughter. Jian Lingtian was wronged in the past. After he finished speaking, Long Lin and Lu Wuhin's blood boiled. Although the sword fanatic was a member of Yangqing's palace, she was also a member of the Forgotten Immortal Sect. They had experienced several battles along the way. If the Sword Tribe owes the sword fanatic justice, we'll get it back. Agreed, the two of them said. Lin Yu continued. Second, I need the 4 sacred swords. Now that the Azure Dragon, White Tiger, and Vermilion Bird swords are in the Sword Tribe, together with my Black Tortoise sword, I'll complete half of the 4 swords 5 ultimate god-killing formation. 4 swords 5 ultimate god-killing formation? The little sacred king wants to create a formation. The two of them were shocked. The 4 swords should be the 4 divine swords. A formation needs to gather the 4 divine swords. How powerful must the formation be? Lu Wuhin added. Lin Yu nodded. I heard from Drunken Immortal Ballad that the Buddha Emperor is injured. In the southern border, there is a hidden force that can contend with the Buddha Emperor. And this undercurrent is the heaven-reflecting mirror and the descendant of the demon emperor that I'm looking for. The two of them gasped again. The Buddha Emperor is the same as the demonic emperor. They are both Grand Supreme Realm cultivators, but even they were injured. Where is he now? Lu Wuhin asked. If it was in the past, he would definitely be extremely shocked. However, after seeing the 7-Yi demon emperor die in front of him, it did not seem impossible for the 9-headed Buddha Emperor to be injured. The descendant of the Devil Emperor and the heaven-reflecting mirror are also looking for him. I'm also looking for him. As for who will find him first, it will depend on their abilities. Lin Yu's tone was filled with confidence. The Buddha Emperor must have an even more powerful trump card. It's a pity that he can't use it now. Otherwise, even the descendant of the Demon Emperor wouldn't be his match. Trump card? Long Lin asked with great interest. That's right. The 10,000 Buddha Hall is the Buddha Emperor's trump card. However, he must have been tricked by the heaven-reflecting mirror from the beginning. He didn't even have the chance to use this trump card. Lin Yu already knew everything about the southern border in those 100,000 years. However, he still needed to prepare a trump card to deal with the heaven-reflecting mirror head-on. I'm afraid the Buddha Emperor won't be able to use this trump card for the next 10 years, but I can. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Lu Wuhin and Long Lin finally understood. If the descendant of the Demon Emperor and the Buddha Emperor go to war, and the Holy King has the 10,000 Buddha Hall as his trump card, won't we be the biggest winner? They finally understood that Lin Yu had been plotting from the beginning. Just as they were getting excited, Lin Yu pressed one hand on the side of the boat's armrest. If I only know the Buddha Emperor's location, I won't be able to control the entire situation. What I want is to create another trump card and use it to negotiate with the Buddha Emperor. By then, the situation will be completely under my control. A trump card to negotiate with the Buddha Emperor. That's right. In the entire history of the southern border, it's the most powerful array, the 4 swords, 5 ultimate god-killing array. Lin Yu continued to explain. It said that the moment this array is completed, it can trigger the southern border's nomological laws, enough to defeat all enemies. The two gasped. The southern border's nomological laws to kill enemies. The nomological laws of a starry sky were the most supreme existence in that starry sky. Was there really an array that could trigger the nomological laws? Above the thousand-Tao Grand Supreme Realm was the Law Realm. That was a true, godlike existence in the starry sky. Lu Wuhan came back to his senses and was somewhat puzzled. If the Holy King has mastered the god-killing array, why do you need the Buddha Emperor's 10,000 Buddha Hall? You could defeat the heaven-reflecting mirror by yourself. No, the heaven-reflecting mirror is not in its complete form now. What I'm worried about is something else. What is it? A descendant of the Demon Emperor. To be precise, he has inherited a wisp of the Demon Emperor's divine will and cultivation. I'm afraid that he can stir up the southern border's 8 clans. At least, he has obtained most of the heaven-reflecting mirror's power. The god-killing array may not be able to deal with him. Lin Yu added, coupled with Drunken Immortal Ballad's reaction, I'm guessing that the 8 clans are in a dire situation now. If someone is behind this, it's very likely that a war between the 8 clans will break out. It'll be troublesome then. With the Buddha Emperor's help, it's right to have an extra layer of protection. The two agreed with Lin Yu's point of view. After returning to the cabin, Lin Yu went to his room. Their rooms were intentionally or unintentionally separated by the Sword Tribe. It seemed that Jian Shun did not want the others from the Sword Tribe to clash with Lin Yu. His mission was obviously to bring Lin Yu back to the Sword Tribe. Young master, Lin Yu frowned slightly. It was already late at night. In the dark and narrow room, Lin Yu heard Yi Mingyue's voice. Miss Yi, it seems like you're used to looking for me at night. Batty, I want to look for you. I'm just worried about our safety on this trip. Lin Yu walked to the side of the bed. The starlight in the sky was cut into bits and pieces as the battleship flew. When the starlight shone into the room, it also reflected Yi Mingyue's beautiful face. Her face looked even more perfect in the dim environment. Lin Yu moved closer. Are you worried that you need to look for me in the middle of the night? It's safest to talk about it now. The Sword Tribe will be here in the day. Haven't we talk about it? Lin Yu smiled. When a woman was serious, logic was useless. He casually lay on the bed and took Yi Mingyue's hand to lie down as well. Yi Mingyue's delicate body trembled slightly. She wanted to reject him, but Lin Yu's body emitted a domineering aura. Yi Mingyue's body unconsciously heated up, and she lay down in a daze. It was the pure Yang Dragon aura from Lin Yu's Great Void 8 Steps Dragon Transformation Scripture. The two of them lay flat. Yi Mingyue was a little embarrassed. She broke the silence of the night and said, it might not be so dangerous for us to go to the Sword Tribe. However, if Chiyer's identity is exposed, Jian Shiyun will not let her off. Chapter 118. Coupled with the Black Tortoise Sword, there will be a fierce battle this time. Once Jian Shiyun decides to kill us, will we be able to escape unscathed? Lin Yu smiled. When he heard Yi Mingyue talking about serious matters, he turned his face to the side. His lips were less than a foot away from Yi Mingyue's. If we want to fight with Jian Shiyun and the Sword Tribe, it will be like hitting a rock with an egg. Then why did you agree to come on the ship? Yi Mingyue asked anxiously. She accidentally got closer to Lin Yu and realized the distance between them. She immediately moved away, but her breathing caused her body to rise and fall. It made one's heart palpitate. Miss Yi, if you don't calm down, Lin Yu won't be able to calm down either. Lin Yu joked. Yi Mingyue turned her face away, not daring to look at Lin Yu. I'm talking to you about serious matters. Her ears were already extremely red. Lin Yu said seriously, Jian Shiyun can't do anything to us openly. Of course, he can kill us secretly. He has other methods to make us die in the Sword Tribe. What methods? You will know when the time comes. Jian Shiyun has methods, but so do I. What can we do in the Sword Tribe? The Sword Venerable's guilt toward Sword Maniac is the best trump card. Did the Sword Venerable really kill Jian Lingtian? If that's true, he is a vicious father. How could he show mercy to his granddaughter? Lin Yu sighed softly. He killed Jian Lingtian, but it was worse than killing himself. In the end, it was just a burden for the Sword Tribe. He had no choice but to let Jian Shiyun and Jian-Chen inherited. If Sword Maniac reveals her talent, she will be the best trump card to defeat Jian-Chiyun. His eyes seemed to be reminiscing. During the 100,000 years he was trapped, he had entered the place where the Sword Venerable cultivated in seclusion. He knew how pathetic the Sword Venerable was now. He was confident. Hence, he had planned for this day from the moment he met Sword Maniac. Once Sword Maniac established a force in the sword race, he would not only possess the Black Tortoise Sword, but also the 4 sacred swords. After obtaining the 4 divine swords, Lin Yu would go to the Zither concubine's place to obtain the 5 beauties of wind and moon. That was his trump card for the negotiation with the Buddha Emperor. The 4 swords' 5 ultimate god-killing formation was ready. Looks like you planned this from the start. Yi Minghua looked at Lin Yu with a strange tone. It was obvious that she was blaming him for not letting them know about his dirty tricks. There are many things that I don't like to say clearly. Instead, I hope that you can guess. That way, life is more interesting. Just say it. Who can be as smart as our young master? If you want us to guess, then we have to be able to guess. Lin Yu smiled. He couldn't help but turn over and press on top of Yi Minghua. Miss Yi, do you have something to tell me? So heavy. Yi Mingyu struggled, and her eyes met with Lin Yu's. Their breaths intertwined. In the end, Yi Mingyu admitted defeat and said, I've told you my intentions from the start. Lin Yu stopped teasing her. He lay back down and fell into a deep sleep. Yi Mingyu's cheeks were burning, but when she heard Lin Yu's even breathing, she couldn't help but knock on the side of the bed. What do you mean? The next day, Lin Yu woke up. He was alone as usual. As expected, I'm not popular with women. Lin Yu sighed inwardly. Yi Mingyu had already left. There was a knock on the door. Lin Yu signaled for them to come in. It was Lu Wuhan and Long Lin. Old Long, can you keep your snoring down last night? It was like thunder. If you snort again tonight, I'll poke your nose with the phoenix spear. Lu Wuhan nagged as he came in. Long Lin still looked indifferent. We're almost at the sword race today. The two greeted Lin Yu with their fists. Where are we now? We're already in the sword race's territory. All right. Lin Yu walked out of the room. Jian-Chen and the rest were already waiting outside. Seeing Lin Yu, Jian-Chen cupped his fists and said, Young Master Lin, we're here. He was no longer as arrogant as he was when they first met at the Wind Moon Brothel. However, even though Lin Yu knew that Jian-Chen's polite behavior was just an act, he still couldn't help but admire this person's state of mind. Is it because you're shrewd, or because I killed Jian Shuang and solidified your position? Lin Yu whispered to Jian-Chen. Jian-Chen's expression changed. He was afraid that someone would overhear their conversation with Lin Yu. Young Master Lin, you must be joking. Lin Yu's lips curled up. Little Sword Venerable, don't worry. Lin Yu, and you're the same kind of person. A great man must be ruthless, right? Jian-Chen's face twitched. He changed the topic and his voice returned to normal. We're already in the sword race's territory. You can get ready to disembark. Very good. Lin Yu didn't say anything else. It would be best if he could make use of Jian-Chen. However, if he couldn't, Lin Yu didn't mind getting rid of him in the sword race. When Jian-Chen walked past Jian-Chen, an undetectable light flashed across his eyes. He asked casually, May I ask if I've seen you before? Sword Addict's delicate body trembled. As Jian-Chen spoke, a faint pressure pressed down on Sword Addict. This pressure obviously came from Jian-Chen. Jian-Chen's aura made her realize how big the gap between her and Jian-Chen was. In her group, perhaps only Lin Yu was a match for Jian-Chen. Even though Lin Yu's defeat of Jian-Chen seemed simple to them, Jian-Chen was still the most powerful of the younger generation in the southern land. Jian-Chen's footsteps stopped. Lin Yu turned around and said, Let's go. She heaved a sigh of relief and ignored Jian-Chen's words. She followed Lin Yu down the warship. Jian Jing said from behind, Young Sword Venerable, that girl is giving me a sense of pressure. I know. Jian-Chen narrowed his eyes and also walked down the warship. Jian Jing wasn't the only one who felt the pressure. Jian-Chen felt it too. Jian-Chen was wary of Jian-Chen's aura. It was a pressure that came from her bloodline. It was as if Jian-Chen's bloodline was more orthodox than his. That was why he instinctively released his aura to block Jian Chen's aura every time he faced her. She's that bastard. Jian Chen's eyes flashed with killing intent. Jian Chen's target was Jian Chen's. Lin Yu's group stopped at the sword race's gate. Jian Chen followed and said with a smile, "My father is waiting for you, young Master Lin. Please, wait." A stern voice suddenly came from outside the sword race. Lin Yu paused. Everyone turned around and saw the guards at the sword race's gate stop them. "How dare you? These are the sword race's guests. What do you want?" Jian Chen immediately shouted. Seeing this, Lin Yu smiled. He knew what was going to happen. As expected, the guard cupped his fists and said, "Young Sword Venerable, please forgive us. The 8 races are in turmoil recently. The Sword Venerable ordered that all guests must go through the side door as a precaution." Chapter 119. Side Door. Yi Minghua was slightly angry. She glanced at the side of the solemn main door. There was indeed a side door. The Sword Tribe was like a huge city. The surrounding walls reached into the clouds, but there was only one entrance in the middle of the endless walls. The entrance was divided into the main door and the side door. The side door was very simple. It was obviously for the servants. Is this how the Sword Tribe treats its guests? Then let's not enter this broken place. Lu Wuhan and Long Lin snorted. On the other side, Jian Chen looked worried. Since it's my grandfather's order, I can't say anything. Please forgive us. Why don't we go through the side door? His tone was apologetic. But how could Lin Yu not know what he meant? What's under the main door? Speak. Lin Yu's voice sounded. Jian Chen's eyes flickered. Then he frowned and said angrily to the guards, "Tell us everything." Yes, yes. The leader of the guards trembled. The Sword Sovereign has set up a bloodline restriction. Only members of the Sword Tribe can pass through the main door. Outsiders can only pass through the side door. He seemed to have memorized the words long ago. He added, "This is also a way to prevent outsiders from sneaking into the Sword Tribe." Xiao Bing snorted. If outsiders want to sneak into the Sword Tribe, they won't come through the main door, right? This kind of superfluous thing was obviously not to prevent outsiders. It was targeted at Lin Yu's group. "Miss Xia, you're exaggerating." The Sword Sovereign suddenly said this. "We can't make the decision." After the guard finished speaking, he saw dozens of members of the Sword Tribe surrounding Lin Yu's group. "Looks like we can't leave." "Then let's fight." "No." Lin Yu stopped them. He looked at Jian Chen. "Which door does the Junior Sword Sovereign want to go through?" "The main door, of course." Jian Chen no longer concealed himself and revealed his disgusting face. "I am an orthodox member of the sword race. Of course, I can only enter through the main entrance. Everyone, please enter through the side entrance. Don't make my father wait." "That's right. If you want to enter through the main entrance, you can only do so with the bloodline of my sword race. Otherwise, the main entrance's bloodline restriction will backfire, and you will be severely injured. Don't blame me for not warning you." Arriving at the Sword Clan's borders, he was already not worried that Lin Yu and the rest could escape. "The side door. I never go through the side door." Lin Yu smiled faintly and cast a glance at Sword Maniac. The latter understood what he meant. In any case, the sword race was the one playing tricks. Instead of enduring the humiliation and going in, it was better to be high profile. "What does that girl want to do? She's not from the sword race. Does she want to die? Idiot. You didn't even listen to the Junior Sword Venerable's words and went to throw your life away." Sword Maniac walked straight to the door. The other members of the Sword Tribe looked at him with sympathy. "Hold on." Jian Chen stopped her. "I'll say this first. This door has the bloodline restriction of my sword race. Only members of the sword race can pass through. It's not a trap." He was already in front of Sword Maniac and was closer to the door. Now, he walked through the door. At the same time, the door shook violently. Everyone saw a long sword that was stuck in the middle of the door suddenly shoot up into the sky. That's a bloodline chi sword. Only those with pure sword race bloodline can activate it. Moreover, the higher the long sword rises, the more orthodox the bloodline is. The Junior Sword Venerable's bloodline is pure. His sword Dao is almost 800 feet high. Among the younger generation of the sword race, only the junior sword venerable has such a high bloodline. I heard that Jian Shuang is dead. That kid's bloodline is also quite powerful. However, it seems to be only 700 feet high. As expected, the long sword turned into a huge sword chi that shot up 800 feet high. Jian Jing, you guys come in as well. Prove that our sword race didn't set any traps. I don't want young Master Lin and the others to die at the front door. If word gets out, the 8 races will think that our sword race did something shameful. After Jian Shun said that, Jian Jing and the others also walked through the door. The sword chi rose into the sky again. However, it was not as high as the junior sword venerables. The strongest was the sword mirror, but it could only reach a height of 600 feet. Since young Master Lin said that you don't want to go through the side door, you can go through the front door. Jian Chen's voice came. Everyone could tell that he was trying to provoke them. Didn't that guy get 2 treasures at the brothel? Yeah, I thought he was a smart guy. Who knew that he would be so impatient? Since he said he would go through the front door, he would be embarrassing himself if he doesn't go in now. Lu Wuhin and Long Lin also noticed that after the sword chi was activated several times, the front door was exuding a sense of rejection toward the bloodline of other races. If we force our way in, we will be injured by the restriction. Not only will we be injured, but I'm guessing that this restriction wasn't set up recently. It contains a trace of Grand Supreme power. Does the sword race have a Grand Supreme expert? The 2 of them speculated. Of course not. A Grand Supreme expert is a supreme existence on the same level as the 3 sovereigns. If the sword race really had one, the 8 races wouldn't have divided the southern territory equally. Xiaobing immediately shook her head. This restriction has been passed down for 1,000 years. It's just that it was activated today. Lin Yu chuckled. Since they're so high profile, let's do the same. He was talking to Sword Fanatic. Okay. Without hesitation, Sword Fanatic stepped through the front door. Boom. The restriction backfired. Idiot. Who does she think she is? How dare she break into the sword race's bloodline restriction? If she had gone through the side door, it would have been humiliating, but at least she could have kept her life. Now she's done for. Before the crowd could finish their words, they were already surprised. The backfire that they had imagined did not appear. At this moment, Sword Fanatic's body seemed to be surrounded by the light that represented the bloodline restriction. It was gently floating around her. She's from the sword race. There's no mistaking it. The gentleness of the bloodline light represents the purity of her bloodline. In the next moment, sword chi shot up into the sky above the front door. 300 feet, 500 feet, 800 feet. It reached Jian Shen's maximum height in an instant. Am I blind? Not only does she have the bloodline of the sword race, but her bloodline is as pure as the junior sword venerables. Young Master, Sword Fanatic, turned to look at Lin Yu. Go all out. Show them who's the real one. Okay. Jian Shen took a deep breath. He was shocked. It's her. It must be her. The feeling of being defeated since childhood appeared in front of him again after 10 years. Jian Lingtian was dead, but Sword Fanatic was still alive. The most talented descendant of the sword race was not Jian Shun, but Sword Fanatic. Today she was back. Rumble. 900 feet. 950 feet. Oh my God, what happened? Am I blind? Impossible. 950 feet. How could the sword race have a 950 feet bloodline? 100 feet. Her bloodline is infinitely close to the ancestors. Sword Fanatic gritted her teeth and stepped out again. In an instant, Sword Chi shot up to 100 feet. She glared at Jian Shun. Jian Lingtian's daughter, Sword Fanatic, returned. Chapter 120. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was like the soaring sword light that shook everyone's heart. Eldest Sword Son's daughter. Wasn't the main bloodline destroyed? This is crazy. This bloodline sword chi is suppressing my bloodline. I can't breathe. Jian Shen's expression was extremely ugly. He was of the supreme bloodline. Ever since the main bloodline was destroyed, no one in the sword tribe could resist his sharpness. However, Jian Fanatic had achieved ancestral awakening on the first day she entered the tribe. At this moment, two huge stone swords were floating in the sky above the sword tribe. The swords seemed to be made of stone as they hung horizontally in the sky. One of the swords was somewhat damaged, while the other was full of noble aura. On the damaged stone sword, the buildings were damaged and vegetation was overgrown as if no one had lived there for a long time. On the other sword, it was as luxurious as a palace. Who would have thought that the damaged sword was the home of Jian Fanatic in the past? On the magnificent sword, an old man suddenly opened his eyes. Bloodline, ancestral awakening. His old eyes were filled with endless killing intent. Big brother, your daughter is finally back. Not only was he not afraid, but there was also a hint of arrogance in his tone. It's good that she's back. It's great that this hidden danger came to us with the black tortoise sword. A young man stood outside the main hall where Jian Chun was. Go. Jian Chun can't make a move. Go and meet the remnant of the ancestral awakening. She has been wandering outside for 10 years without the protection and resources of the sword tribe. No matter how pure her bloodline is, she won't be your match. Can I kill her? Yes. The young man's eyes were emotionless as he turned and walked to the main door. Below the sword tribe, there were many buildings, but more than that, there was an endless stream of smelting sounds. The unique aura of metal reverberated in the air. It was as if this was a city where swords were forged and refined. At this moment, Sword Fanatic was already inside the door, but she was worried about Lin Yu, who was outside. Young master, how did you get in? I have my ways. Lin Yu walked to the gate's restriction and paced back and forth. He then kicked the stone pillar at the gate a few times. Jian Shen narrowed his eyes to see what he was doing, but in the next moment, his pupils dilated, because the restriction had disappeared. What did you do? Jian Chun roared angrily as he watched Lin Yu walk in. At the same time, Xia Bing, Yi Mingwei, and the others followed closely behind. I said to enter through the main entrance, so we'll enter through the main entrance. Lin Yu bypassed Jian Chun. Lead the way, Jian Qiyun. You must have been waiting for a long time. Jian Chun gritted his teeth. Not only him, but everyone's hearts were in turmoil. The seals that the sword race used to test the bloodline of their clansmen were turned off just like that. The most depressing thing was that they didn't even see what Lin Yu had done. Just a few kicks? That's impossible. Young master, you're too amazing. That's right. I bet Jian Chen's face is burning with pain right now. The restriction that he was so proud of was broken by young master in an instant. We didn't even see how young master did it. Lin Yu felt helpless in his heart. During the 100,000 years that he had been trapped, not only had he closed this door, he had even opened it, turned on and off. It was very fun. Everyone entered the sword race and saw the huge stone sword floating in the air. Those who saw it for the first time couldn't help but gasp. Above it is the residence of the sword supremacy's direct bloodline, Jian Ling Tian and Jian Qian. A few people followed Lin Yu's words and observed. Yiming West sighed softly. That abandoned stone sword should be it. This is my home. Sword Fanatic's eyes reddened. She was back. She was sent to the north as a fugitive from a 5-year-old child. After 10 years, she could finally return here openly. Sword Fanatic suddenly understood why Lin Yu wanted the black tortoise sword in the beginning. The black tortoise sword was his trump card to enter this place. Only with the black tortoise sword would she be qualified to be invited by the sword race. Her young master had already prepared everything for her. Hand over the black tortoise sword. The youth had a cold expression. He looked at Lin Yu and the others as if he was looking at dead people. In particular, his gaze was not fixed on Lin Yu, who was the leader of the group, but on Sword Maniac, who was beside him. Jianin, they are guests of the sword race. Don't be rude. The black tortoise sword belongs to the sword race. No one is allowed to take it. Jian Chen shook his head and put on a helpless expression. Young Master Lin, I'm sorry. Jianin is the most stubborn person in the sword race. Jianin stared at Sword Fanatic. I heard that a member of the sword race who reached ancestral awakening has returned. I'm here to see what you can do. With that, he unsheathed a 7-foot-long sword in his right hand. It was obvious that he was here to stir up trouble. If Sword Fanatic didn't dare to accept the challenge, the momentum she had built up would be gone in an instant. Young Master. Sword Fanatic wanted to know Lin Yu's attitude. It's up to you now. Sword Fanatic nodded heavily. She understood what Lin Yu meant. It was already the best result that her young master could send her here. What happened next would depend on her own strength. In the sword race, only the strength of swordsmanship was the most convincing proof of standing firm. Bloodline was only secondary. Come on. Sword Fanatic took a step forward. You have guts. Jian Yin was in the second realm of swordsmanship. Coupled with his 3 sons' transcendent realm cultivation, his entire body flashed with the sound of wind breaking. The sword aura instantly approached Sword Fanatic. The heavenly derivation sword technique was activated to the extreme. Sword Fanatic held the Crimson Moon sword in her hand. The moment she held the sword, her eyes flashed with a sense of oppression. At this time, Jian Yin gave her the feeling that she wouldn't be his opponent at all. The 10th move. Sword Fanatic observed the battle. Lin Yu had taught her too many ways to fight. Now, she recalled all of them in her mind. The sword aura rose, and Sword Fanatic directly slashed forward. Jian Yin sneered. His figure shifted as if he had already guessed Sword Fanatic's move. The moment he dodged the move, the thin sword in his hand was already pointed at Sword Fanatic's neck. Too fast. Jian Yin's speed is second only to Jian Shuang and Junior Sword Venerable. Who else in the sword race's younger generation has such speed? Long Lin and Lu Wuhan's hearts also tightened. Young Master, should we make a move? It's okay. Let's continue watching. With Lin Yu's words, their confidence in Sword Fanatic greatly increased. Young Master won't misjudge. Yes, old Long. Let's just wait and see. The tip of the sword approached Sword Fanatic and was about to pierce her throat. Jian Yin already felt that victory was in his hands. But all of a sudden, Sword Addict's Crimson Moon sword swung in the air. Sword Concealment turned around abruptly, and the sword chi that he had dodged earlier gathered together again, turning into countless small sword chi that surrounded him first. Sword Aura Regeneration, the 3rd realm of swordsmanship. Impossible. In a panic, Jian Yin quickly retreated. However, the sword aura was already around him. At this moment, the sudden attack made his whole body emit banging sounds. He was hit by several sword auras. Chapter 121. That's not the 3rd realm of swordsmanship. That's illusory sword. Jian Chen squinted his eyes. He was shocked by Sword Fanatic's performance. How did she learn Jian Lingtian's ultimate move after wandering around alone for 10 years? Jian Yin's yang aura surged as he resisted Sword Fanatic's attack with his transcendent realm cultivation. If Sword Fanatic's cultivation wasn't high enough, Jian Yin would have been severely injured. Even if he was only slightly injured, the Crimson Moon sword was placed on his neck. You've lost. Sword Fanatic's cold voice resounded. Her own heart was also pounding. When fighting against an opponent who was much stronger than her, a small mistake would result in an irreparable defeat. Fortunately, she remembered what Lin Yu taught her. Details. She tried her best to perfect every detail. From the time Crimson Heaven Pavilion's unfettered honorable martial artist provocation until now, Lin Yu had taught her, Long Lin, and the others how to challenge someone of a higher realm. Yang Qing's disciple will surpass us soon. Old Lu, she's no longer below us. Lu Wuhan and Long Lin praised in unison. Hee, Jian Yin couldn't help but fight against an expert. I hope young Master Lin and the others won't take offense. Jian Shan tried to smooth things over. Naturally, he wouldn't lower himself to challenge Sword Fanatic. He felt that Sword Fanatic wasn't worthy. You can leave. Sword Fanatic put down the Crimson Moon sword. She knew that she couldn't kill Jian Yin, even if this cold-blooded young man wanted to take her life. However, if she killed him, it would give the Sword Clan a chance to punish Lin Yu and the others. She might be killed by the Sword Clan. Thank you. The sword on his neck disappeared. Jian Yin suddenly saw Jian Chen's gaze. That gaze was ordering him to kill. Just as Sword Fanatic relaxed, Jian Yin raised the sword in his hand again and stabbed towards Sword Fanatic's neck. His speed was fast, and the distance was close. The tip of his sword was about to touch Sword Fanatic. Isn't it good to be alive? A dark vortex suddenly appeared in the sky. A dragon claw slashed down from the sky. The moment it appeared, a horrifying aura descended, slowing Jian Yin's speed by half a breath. In just half a breath, the dragon claw slammed down, decisive, heartless. Rumbling sounds could be heard. The earth cracked, rocks collapsed, and people were shocked. Lin Yu held Sword Fanatic's shoulder with one hand and slowly lowered his other hand. The dragon claw and the vortex disappeared, and the hidden sword had already turned into a pool of blood. Taishu 8's Sex Dragon Transformation Chapter. Even with Lin Yu's current strength, he could only use one dragon claw. However, a divine ability was still a divine ability. Jian Chun was shocked. Just like the other members of the sword race, he didn't even have the courage to stop Lin Yu. This was the young man's trump card. That was why he dared to come to the Sword Clan. It was because even the Sword Clan and his father, Jian Qiyun, who was the strongest in his heart, might not be able to resist that dragon claw head-on. That was a difference of dimensions. You dare to kill? Why wouldn't I? Lin Yu looked at Jian Chun. If you don't like me, you can come at me together. Lin Yu didn't like to reason with his opponents. Sword Fanatic had already shown mercy, but if it wasn't for Lin Yu, she wouldn't even have the chance to recover from the shock in Lin Yu's arms. Long Lin, Lu Wuhan, Yi Mingyue, and Xia Bing surrounded Lin Yu and Sword Fanatic. The sword race is not only a sore loser in the Sword Dao, but also shameless? I thought the sword race still had some backbone. Back then, Senior Jian Ling Tian shocked the 8 races. Now, you juniors have lost and still want to sneak up on others? Yi Mingyue and Xia Bing cursed. The sword race's members all had gloomy expressions. They couldn't resist at that moment. Even if they were to lie through their teeth, they couldn't explain Jian Yinshan's actions. After watching for so long, it's time for you to come out. Lin Yu suddenly spoke in a direction where no one was around. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw that the space there had suddenly shattered, and an old man slowly walked out. The moment he appeared, everyone from the sword race immediately knelt down. Greetings, eldest sword son. The person who came was the second in command of the sword race, Jian Chen's father, Jian Qiyun. You have good observation skills. There are very few outstanding youths in the southern border. Jian Qiyun's aged voice sounded. His vicious gaze landed on Lin Yu and then on Sword Fanatic. In the end, his gaze returned to Lin Yu. In his opinion, Sword Fanatic had Jian Lingtian's shadow on her, and she had also inherited Jian Lingtian's talent in the Sword Dao. But now, the most terrifying threat was Lin Yu. How did this kid know that he was hiding here? Jian Qian stared at him a few more times, but Jian Qian realized that he couldn't see through this youth who looked to be 15 or 16 years old. Little brother, which sect are you from? Lin Yu smiled and didn't answer his question. Instead, a huge sword appeared in his hand. The moment this sword appeared, the two swords that Jian Yinshan and Sword Fanatic had competed with immediately paled in comparison. An ancient aura emanated from the huge sword. The moment Lin Yu held the sword hilt, a shadow appeared in the air. Dragon head, tortoise body, snake tail, black tortoise sword chi. Jian Qiyu narrowed his eyes. He was even more certain that Lin Yu wasn't simple. This person was 100 times more difficult to deal with than Sword Fanatic. You can perfectly wield the black tortoise sword. Are you also from my sword tribe? I'm afraid the sword tribe's bloodline isn't worthy of me. How dare you? How arrogant. Sword son, this person humiliated my sword tribe. Why don't we take him down? Hold on. Jian Qiyun raised his hand. Of course, he wouldn't listen to those fools. The perfect black tortoise sword chi and the terrifying dragon claw from before. Jian Qiyun cursed in his heart. If he really fought, wouldn't he be seriously injured? Even if he took down the black tortoise sword, those from the Wind Moon race would be eyeing it. Even Xia Bing, the eldest daughter of the Yao race's branch family, was here. This wasn't easy to deal with. Sir, the sword tribe is a reasonable place. The black tortoise sword is one of the 4 sacred swords of my sword tribe. What do you want for it to be returned? If others knew that he was so wary of Samsara realm brat, the 8 races would probably laugh at him. Great sword son, when did you become so kind? That's right. Lin Yu and his group would have died 800 times. The black tortoise sword naturally belongs to the sword tribe. I'm here to return the black tortoise sword. Lin Yu toyed with the black tortoise sword as the huge black tortoise phantom slowly flew in the air. From time to time, it would get too close to the sword tribe members. They would dodge in fear, and so would even fall to the ground. However, they didn't dare to resist the might of the sacred sword. Especially now, Jian Shiyun, who had always been ruthless in his actions, was actually looking at Lin Yu's face. This was the reason why they didn't dare to act rashly. Jian was also dumbfounded. Unusual. Father is unusual. Chapter 122. When Jian Shiyun heard Lin Yu's words, he smiled meaningfully. It's good that you have the heart to return it. You can state your conditions. The sword race is a place of reason. His gaze landed on Lin Yu. Once Lin Yu handed over the black tortoise sword, it was equivalent to losing a large amount of combat power. If it wasn't for Lin Yu's ability and black tortoise sword chi, Jian Shiyun wouldn't be so afraid. The condition is simple. I want the honorable sword to personally come and take it. Lin Yu stared at Jian Shiyun with no fear in his eyes. It's reasonable for the sword race's patriarch to personally take one of the 4 great sacred swords that has been lost for many years, right? Ha! Jian Shiyun didn't know what Lin Yu meant and shook his head with a smile. I won't hide it from you. My father, the honorable sword, has been in seclusion for 10 years and hasn't come out yet. Now, I'm the one in charge of the sword race. Before Jian Shiyun finished speaking, Lin Yu had already turned and walked out of the city gate. Stop him. Under Jian Shin's command, dozens of sword tribes experts rushed forward, blocking the path of Lin Yu's group. Young master, are we going to fight? Lu Wuhan was filled with fighting spirit. Dragon Scale was ready to attack. Lin Yu shook his head. No, I'm also a reasonable person. After he said that, the black tortoise sword chi in the sky roared and smashed down on the sword race, people blocking the way. Rumble. The dense and domineering black tortoise sword smashed down like a great demon. The sword race people didn't even have a chance to attack before they were all hit by the black tortoise. In an instant, they were all heavily injured. Young master is really a reasonable person. Yi Mingwei laughed. Yeah. They don't even want to kill anymore. Lin Yu was very careful. These people only lost their combat power and didn't really die. What does the black tortoise sword chi have to do with our young master? Xiao Bing smiled in admiration. After following me for so long, you've finally learned a little. Lin Yu praised. Just a moment ago, Jianinzi had lost and still launched a sneak attack. Even if he died, Lin Yu would still be in the right. However, if he were to casually kill people now, it would be hard to say. Again, Lin Yu didn't even turn his head, but his words were meant for Jian Shen, who had just given the order. Jian Shen's face darkened. Even if the azure dragon sword on his back did not lose to the black tortoise sword, he had already lost to Lin Yu once. He looked up at the black tortoise in the sky. To be able to make the black tortoise sword chi look like a real beast, he knew that he could not do what Lin Yu did. Jian Shiyun took a deep breath. He already knew that this would happen. Do you really want to see the sword venerable? When you become the leader of the sword tribe, I can also meet you. Lin Yu turned around, knowing that they could finally have a good talk. Unfortunately, you're not. This sentence seemed to have hit Jian Shiyun's sore spot. At this moment, Jian Shiyun's sword chi and glory chi exploded. He took a step forward. Originally, he was still a few feet away from Lin Yu, but in the blink of an eye, he was already standing 3 feet away from him. Ground shrink. 9 suns transcendent realm. Long Lin and the others became alert, but Lin Yu was not afraid. This was because the black tortoise sword chi had already opened its bloody mouth and would fall at any time. Also, behind Lin Yu, A dark vortex had already appeared. Although Jian Qiyun's old eyes were filled with anger, his face twitched. Even with his 9 sons' transcendent realm cultivation, he still felt a sense of crisis. I can't fight. If I can't take him down, it would be a disgrace to the entire South. Do you still need to consider? Okay, I promise you. Jian Qiyun's old face turned red, and he forcefully suppressed his killing intent. However, the sword venerable is in seclusion. I need to inform him. The earliest I can see him is tomorrow morning. When he said this, his pupils trembled slightly as he carefully observed Lin Yu's reaction. Lin Yu shrugged, and Jian Qiyun could not see any abnormalities in his expression. Okay, tomorrow it is. Jian Jing, bring the guests to the sword cleansing pool for a night. Do not neglect them. After Jian Qiyun finished instructing, he left. After hearing this, Jian Shun understood something and immediately followed Jian Qiyun. Everyone, please follow me. When Jian Jing saw that the sword race people were injured by the black tortoise or chi, he could not help but swallow his saliva. It was only when Lin Yu kept the black tortoise sword that he felt the dangerous pressure disappear. Lead the way. In the sky above the sword race city, on a magnificent stone sword, Jian Qiyun returned to his palace. Immediately, a maidservant came to serve him. Kneel. The maidservant's face was pale. She did not know why Jian Qiyun was so angry. However, the clothes on her shoulders were instantly pulled down by Jian Qiyun, and her head was directly pressed down by Jian Qiyun. Jian Shun came in at this time. Seeing this, he could not help but be shocked. He had never seen Jian Qiyun so angry before. Father, that bastard has ancestral awakening. His bloodline is even more powerful than his dead father's. We can't let him leave. Naturally, he was talking about the sword maniac. Idiot, can't you see that Lin Yu is the most troublesome person? Even now, you only know how to compete with that bastard. Jian Qiyun stared at Jian Shan with a sharp gaze. You were defeated by Lin Yu. It's not an injustice. Father, if we fight again, I might not lose to him. Jian Shan was very indignant. He was the top prodigy of the sword race, at least for now. Lin Yu is not simple. Regardless of strength, courage, or strategy, you can't compare to him. Even if you were given 100 chances, you wouldn't be able to defeat him. Jian Qiyun took a deep breath. As he twitched, he kicked the maidservant away. Hearing this, Jian Shun felt a sense of defeat. He was the top prodigy of the southern border. When had he ever been defeated like this? Do you know why I arranged for them to stay at the sword cleansing pool? Of course. Father, are you going to use the 4 sacred sword formation? That's right. Although we don't have the black tortoise sword, since you're back together with your azure dragon sword, the power of the 3 sacred swords is enough to kill him. Jian Chun sneered. The 4 sacred sword formation is the most powerful sword formation in the sword race. Unfortunately, it takes time to set it up. However, the sword cleansing pool has the natural interference of the sword chi. Even if we set up the formation around Lin Yu and the others, they won't notice. Do it quickly. Lin Yu is not simple. Since he came with the sword maniac, he's our enemy. If we let him grow, even if I attack him personally, I won't be his match in the future. So even if we might be criticized by the Wind-Moon race, the sword race must kill Lin Yu. After Jian Shan finished speaking, he cupped his fists and left. Jian Qiyun closed his eyes and slumped into his seat, looking exhausted. How did that kid know about the 4 sacred black tortoise sword technique? Could it be that the 4 sacred swords have secrets that I don't know? Ridiculous. Jian Qiyun clenched his fists tightly. You said that I can't be the clan leader? Jian Ling Tian, you're already dead. Let's see how long that old man, who doesn't have much time left, can mourn you. In the sword cleansing pool, Lin Yu and the others settled down after Jian Jing's arrangements. This river surrounds this place. The environment is quiet. Old Lu, the sword chi here is very dense. Elder Long, the ancient swords in the river are the swords of the sword race's death race. Chapter 123. Sword Maniac's tone was sorrowful. She was still a member of the sword race. Everyone looked at the clear river water. There were indeed many swords at the bottom of the river. There are also many broken swords. I heard that this sword cleansing pool is used to wash away the hostility on the swords and the sword chi of the previous user. Xiaobing looked at Lin Yu subconsciously. Yi Mingwei and the others also looked over. Yes. Lin Yu nodded. Sword maniac, I have something to tell you. The rest of you, find a room to rest first. Sword maniac's eyes were filled with surprise as she entered the room alone with Lin Yu. Close the door. Sword maniac obediently closed the door. Young master, please speak. Do you know about the four sages' sword formation? I think I heard Dad mention it when I was young, but I'm not very sure. This was also within Lin Yu's expectations. The sword cleansing pool contains natural, ownerless sword chi. These sword chi are also the nutrients of the four sages' sword formation. Sword maniac was puzzled and looked surprised. To put it simply, this sword cleansing pool, the river it forms, all the houses within 100 feet radius, and the ground are all buried with the sword formation. Sword maniac's eyes flashed with shock. Young master, how do you know about such a huge formation? That's not important, but you should know why Jian Qian arranged for us to be here. He wants to use the sword formation to kill us. But why? Young master has already agreed to hand over the black tortoise sword. It's hard to know what's in a person's heart. Moreover, Jian Qian is not a good person to begin with. Have you forgotten what happened to you? Sword maniac's pretty face froze and immediately turned pale. When she was young, her father had said the same thing to her when he sent her away. Father has never done anything to hurt them, but it's fine. I guess the formation will be fully activated tonight because they don't plan to let me see the sword venerable. Why, Grandpa is still the sword race's patriarch. Lin Yu shook his head. He's just a figurehead. The sword venerable lost your father, and he thought he lost you too. He's already an old man, but he can't protect his descendants. Lin Yu felt helpless. It just so happened that the person who wanted to harm you and your father was his other son. Tell me, could he still be the sword exalted that symbolized the pinnacle of the sword Tao in the southern border? When Sword Fanatic heard this, he grabbed his clothes in a panic. Young master, let's run then. She knew that the sword tribe was already in such a state, but the most important thing now was that Jian Qian wanted to use the four sacred sword formation to deal with them. The Sword Fanatic did not want anyone to get hurt because of her, especially Lin Yu. I won't be able to leave. If I hadn't been able to stop Jian Qian for a while today, he would have already attacked. Lin Yu took out the black tortoise sword from his storage ring and handed it to Sword Fanatic. Do you know why the black tortoise sword is the only black tortoise sword out there? Sword Addict shook his head. Because the most important core of the four sacred swords formation is the black tortoise sword. Sword Fanatic's heart trembled. Young master, how did you know? In her eyes, Lin Yu was already an omniscient existence like a god. Lin Yu naturally would not tell her this in detail. In the 100,000 years that he was trapped, he explored all the secrets in the world and learned about all the powerful people. It was all his way to relieve his boredom. Otherwise, he would have been bored to death. During the war between the 8 tribes in the southern land, the Sword Tribe's tribe leader once relied on the four sacred swords formation to kill countless enemies. However, later on, his opponent also knew how to break it. The black tortoise sword is the core of the formation and the most important sword to control the four sacred swords formation. Sword Fanatic was enlightened. She finally understood why Lin Yu knew about Jian Qian's scheme. However, she still agreed to wait at the sword cleansing pool for a night. Young master, we can use the black tortoise sword to control the four sacred swords formation. Not us, but you. Lin Yu approached Sword Fanatic and looked into her eyes. I want you to kill Jian Qian tonight. Young master, Sword Fanatic's heart pounded. I'm not his match. With the four sacred swords formation in hand, you can kill anyone from the sword tribe. Only with Jian Qian dead will I have a bargaining chip to negotiate with your grandfather, the sword sovereign. Lin Yu knew very well what he was doing. Every step he took was within his calculations. Sword Fanatic's jade-like hand held the thick sword hilt, unable to calm down for a long time. However, in her heart, no matter what Lin Yu asked her to do, it seemed to be the right thing to do. I understand, young master. Sword Fanatic's bright eyes were filled with determination. It's almost time. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Have you seen the four sacred black tortoise sword technique clearly? Yes, young master has used it twice. I remember the moves, but I'll pass on the mental cultivation method and skill to you now. After saying that, Lin Yu sat on the bed. Sword Fanatic understood Lin Yu's meaning and sat on the bed as well. However, her heart was racing. Young master, will this affect your cultivation? No, I'll be able to cultivate it back in 2 days. Lin Yu said truthfully. Sword Fanatic's heart tightened. Even if Lin Yu did not deliberately show it, his every word and action revealed his monstrous confidence in martial arts. 2 days to cultivate the four sacred black tortoise sword technique that had been passed down in the sword tribe for thousands of years. Sword Fanatic knew that even her father would not dare to say such a thing, let alone her. But when it came to Lin Yu, Sword Fanatic firmly believed in him. She closed her eyes as Lin Yu pressed his hands on her back. The four sacred black tortoise sword technique skill turned into a warm current that flowed out from Lin Yu's palms. Sword Fanatic's breathing became hotter and hotter. She could feel this warm current entering her body and opening up her meridians. Sword Fanatic's body could not help but tremble. Her entire body was drenched in sweat. 2 hours later, when Sword Fanatic opened her eyes, the black tortoise sword beside her vibrated. As if sensing Sword Fanatic's bloodline and the four sacred black tortoise sword technique, the black tortoise sword flew into Sword Fanatic's hands. I've never felt this before. She got off the bed and kowtowed to Lin Yu. Young master's grace of rebirth. Sword Fanatic will never forget it. Lin Yu shrugged. This was not harmful to him. Change your clothes first. Lin Yu turned his head away. Ah! Sword Fanatic could not help but scream. However, she immediately covered her mouth. She thought that this was a sensitive period. If she was misunderstood, she would be finished. Sword Fanatic knew that she could not go out like this. She turned around and took out a set of clothes from her storage ring to change into. Young master, don't look. I won't look, I won't look. Sword Fanatic's back was facing Lin Yu. Of course, she did not know that he had already turned around. Right? I need you to do something for me. Sword Fanatic's heart thumped. I agree. You're not going to ask what it is? There's no need to ask. Sword Fanatic put on her clothes and turned around. She thought that Lin Yu had also just turned around. I will always agree to young master's matters. Lin Yu smiled. It's actually not a difficult matter. Chapter 124. I need you to lend me the four sacred swords for a period of time when you become the Sword Clan leader. Sword Clan leader. Sword Fanatic was shocked. She was only able to return to the Sword Clan because of Lin Yu's help. However, she had never thought that she could become the Sword Clan leader. If Jian Lingtian hadn't lost all his cultivation, he would be the Sword Clan leader now. You are his only daughter, and your talent is passable. If nothing goes wrong, you will be the next Sword Clan leader. But can we do it now? Sword Fanatic was clearly not confident. Lin Yu was right, but it was almost impossible to snatch the Sword Clan back from Jian Qiyun and his son. Young master, I noticed that everyone in the Sword Clan seems to be afraid of them. Your grandfather has been in seclusion for 10 years. The Sword Clan is already under Jian Qiyun's control. Of course, they are afraid. Lin Yu could not help but add, do you think those who supported your father or those who opposed him will have a good ending after he gains power? He is someone who can kill his own elder brother. Sword Fanatic's heart tightened. She felt a tearing pain. This made her even more determined to fulfill her promise to Lin Yu. Jian Chun had to be eliminated. Jian Qiyun had to be eliminated even more. Otherwise, the Sword Clan would be ruled by a tyrant. Young master, if I become the Sword Clan leader, I will definitely give you the four sacred swords. Very good. It was already dark. However, just as Lin Yu finished speaking, an earth-shattering sword chi came from outside. The sword chi's pressure fell like a torrential rain, causing Long Lin and the others in the other rooms to appear outside the sword cleansing pool in shock. Jian Chun, What is the meaning of this? Jianshun could not help but laugh maniacally when he heard Long Lin and Lu Wuhan's questioning. You don't even know that death is near. A bunch of fools. Jianshun was currently standing in the air above the sword cleansing pool. Around him, 3 long swords floated in the air. Lin Yu, sword fanatic, come out and fight. Jianshun's voice reverberated within 100 feet radius. Lin Yu slowly walked out of the room. What's wrong? Did you call your grandfather? That old man's position is only in name. I am the future master of the sword race. When Jianshun saw Lin Yu, he was filled with anger. He raised his hand, and above the sword cleansing pool, a 10-zhang sword array appeared, covering the entire sky. Within the array formation, golden patterns were densely packed, outlining lines of ancient runes. Every rune seemed to be flowing with the light of sword energy. The entire sword formation was made up of sword chi. What a powerful sword formation. This formation is even more powerful than the 4 directions killing formation that young master taught us. Isn't that obvious? This array has absorbed all the sword chi in the sword cleansing pool. It's basically the strongest array formed by the sword souls of the sword race. Lu Wuhan and Long Lin both felt an unprecedented pressure. However, Lin Yu did not panic. Instead, he wanted to laugh. The stronger the sword formation, the better. After all, he would be able to use it in the end. The top array formation of the southern border. Unfortunately, when used by you, it's too weak. What? Jian Shiyun let you come alone? I alone am enough to deal with you. Jianshun stared at Lin Yu with a sharp killing intent. Make your move. What are you pretending for? If you really have the ability to cause trouble for our young master, would you need to bring so many people? With the Phoenix Cry spear in hand, Lu Wuhan swept out with the absolute 3 thrusts. On the other side of the sword cleansing pool, in the dark night, where the wind from the spear passed, at least 30 people were killed. Long Lin sneered. How can that brat maintain such a powerful array formation by himself? Yi Mingwei also felt that Jianshun's actions were shameful. What a pretentious act. You only dare to deal with our young master because you have more than 30 people to form a sword formation. If you have the guts, then fight one-on-one. Hearing this, Lin Yu and the others couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect Miss Yi to have such a common side. Lin Yu couldn't help but laugh. Yi Mingwei snorted. I just hate those people. They clearly can't compare to you, but they insist on finding trouble with you. It doesn't matter. None of you can escape today. As Lin Yu's voice fell, Yi Mingwei and the others' hearts skipped a beat. You already knew? I wanted to fight, but how did young master find a way? Yi Mingwei and Lu Wuhan looked over in shock. They had been with Lin Yu for a long time, and they had also been tempered to be unafraid of bloody battles. Otherwise, if they were ordinary people under the pressure of the 4 sages sword formation, they would have knelt down and begged for mercy. You're about to die, yet you're still so arrogant. Jianshun couldn't stand Lin Yu's attitude of always ignoring him, the number 1 genius of the southern border. At this moment, he activated the 4 sages sword formation. In the sword formation above, suddenly, tens of millions of sword chi seeped out like raindrops. The tip of the sword was pointed at Lin Yu and the others. A life and death crisis was about to descend. I'm the strongest of the younger generation in the southern border, the future leader of the sword tribe. You and Jian fanatic, that bastard, must die. Tens of millions of sword chi suddenly fell. Young master, don't worry. The sword chi approached instantly. Suddenly, a thick and powerful sword chi appeared in the room behind Lin Yu and the others. Tortoise body, dragon head, snake tail. The black tortoise sword chi pierced through the sky. 4 sages black tortoise sword technique. Jianshun was shocked. Why wasn't Lin Yu the one using the black tortoise sword technique? However, at this moment, a beautiful figure in the room raised her sword and bathed in the black tortoise sword chi like a goddess from the 9 heavens. Her slender and hot figure was like a female war god at this moment as she swept her sword down. Jian fanatic, You know the black tortoise sword technique too? Jin Chen roared. Only the leader could learn the four sages' sword technique. Even if he had the three swords, he and Jian Qian didn't know the Azure Dragon, White Tiger, and Vermilion Bird sword techniques. However, the four sages' black tortoise sword technique was being used by Lin Yu and Jian Fanatic. Jian Chen couldn't accept this. Today, even the black tortoise sword technique can't stop my four sages' sword formation. Is that so? Jian Fanatic's beautiful face looked coldly at the people outside the sword cleansing pool. These people are here to kill you, young master. As soon as she said that, the sword chi in her right hand suddenly changed. The black tortoise sword chi roared into the sky and faced the descending sword chi. You can't take it. Jian Shen's three swords flew up, but all of a sudden, the three swords vibrated violently. Damn it, what's going on? The huge black tortoise sword chi didn't collide with the sword formation. Instead, they merged. The moment the black tortoise sword chi merged, the sword formation that was 100 feet wide suddenly trembled. 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet. The black fog in the night churned and rolled back. On the magnificent stone sword, Jian Qian was waiting for Jian Shen's good news. He looked in the direction of the sword cleansing pool from afar and saw the changes in the sword formation. Something's wrong. Jian Qian felt uneasy and instantly moved towards the sword cleansing pool. He knew the power of the four sages' sword formation in Jian Shen's hands. It wasn't that powerful. Chapter 125. This is the complete four sages sword array. Good, sword maniac, the heavens are on my side. Jian Chun was overjoyed. With young master here, even the heavens can't save you. As soon as sword maniac finished speaking, the sword chi that was approaching Lin Yu and the others suddenly changed direction and rushed to the other side of the sword cleansing pool. No, this is impossible. Jian Chun frantically activated his cultivation to control the three swords. But he realized that the three swords had instantly appeared beside Sword Maniac. There was no reaction at all. The only control of the sword array was the black tortoise sword that Sword Maniac was pointing at him. Wait, Sword Maniac, I'm your cousin. I was wrong. I was wrong. Jian Chen's voice rang out, but only he could hear it, because the rain of swords had already fallen. The complete four sages sword array smashed toward the other side of the sword cleansing pool. At the bottom of the pool, the countless swords that seemed to be sleeping vibrated at the same time and broke out of the ground and merged with the sword chi falling from the sky. The real swords and the virtual swords struck from above and below Jian Chun and all the people he had brought with him. Under the attack of the sword array, it was as if they had been wiped out. Not even a piece of their body was left. Blood dyed the sword cleansing pool red. How terrifying. This is the four sages' sword array. Even Long Lin and Lu Wuhan were extremely shocked at this moment, let alone Xia Bing and Yi Mingwei. If this sword array fell on them, they would probably end up exactly like Jian Chun. I've finally seen the power of the 8 races of the southern border. Yi Mingwei murmured in shock. In the air, Sword Maniac staggered and finally collapsed into Lin Yu's arms, as if he had exhausted all his strength. Young master, I did it. Sword Maniac looked exhausted. Very good. Lin Yu took out a large number of elixirs and dazzling gold from his storage ring. Under the burning of the true sun fire, they turned into pure medicinal power and merged into Sword Maniac's body. When Sword Maniac's complexion recovered, she steadied herself. Lin Yu looked in the direction of the stone sword. There, a furious roar sounded. Lin Yu, you kill my son. Sword Fanatic looked at Lin Yu with self-blame. Young master, I'm afraid I won't be able to use the four sages sword formation a second time. It's all right. Lin Yu knew that Sword Fanatic's vitality had been damaged. Jian Shen needed more than 30 people to activate the sword array. Although Sword Fanatic had managed to snatch the sword formation that had already taken shape, he had expended a lot of glory energy. I'm sorry, my cultivation is too low. Sword Fanatic knew that if she was not at the samsara stage, but a transcendent stage cultivator, she would not be so weak. Lin Yu waved his hand and stored the 4 holy swords into his storage ring. At the same time, he pointed in a direction. Let's go. Everyone was confused. That direction was a small path, and they didn't know where it led. However, since Lin Yu was walking in front, they naturally followed him. 10 breaths later, the 9 great suns descended. Jian Shiyun's old eyes were bloodshot. Damn it, Chinner. Jian Shiyun spread out his spiritual senses, but he couldn't find any traces of Lin Yu and the others. The worst thing was that he couldn't even find Jian Chen's corpse. The ground was filled with pieces of flesh and blood. It was impossible to tell who was who. 4 sacred sword array. Why did the 4 sacred sword array backfire? Behind him, countless sword tribe elders had also arrived. Did the young sword venerable's light extinguish? It can't be wrong. Sword son, the young sword venerable, Jian Shiyun gritted his teeth. The 9 sun transcendent realm's glory energy burned, and the surrounding ground was set ablaze. Seal the sword tribe and dig those people out. Yes. However, at that moment, the ground shook again. The sound of a bell echoed throughout the sword tribe. That's the sword venerable's seclusion place. Presumptuous. Who dares to disturb the sword venerable at this time? Jian Shiyun looked over, and his heart tightened. Not good. It's Lin Yu. That old thing is his target. A diversion. Jian Shiyun's figure shot out, and all the sword tribe elders followed closely behind. The sword tribe's most secretive place. Lin Yu let go of the wooden stake. Young master, why did you ring the bell? They had already safely left the sword cleansing pool. However, Xia Bing did not understand why they had to make such a big commotion. Of course, it's for fun. Lin Yu shrugged and raised his hand to Sword Fanatic. Put your hand on it. Everyone was now in front of a huge stone door. On this stone door, there were various inscriptions and patterns. In the middle of it, there was a palm-sized groove. Sword Fanatic placed her hand on it, and the groove suddenly emitted a suction force. It's the same as the light at the Sword Tribe city gate. Sword Fanatic immediately felt that the groove was checking her bloodline. After a while, a crack appeared in the middle of the stone door. The crack grew bigger and bigger. Sword Fanatic put down her hand, and the stone door opened. At that moment, a shocking sword aura surged out from the stone door. Lin Yu and the others suddenly felt a strong sense of oppression. Let's go in. Lin Yu stepped forward. Behind the stone door was a secret chamber, as if it had not been opened for many years. The air inside was not good. However, everyone's attention was not on this. Instead, they saw a figure sitting cross-legged on a stone platform in the middle of the secret chamber. The figure had a head of white hair. His head was lowered, making it impossible to tell if he was a man or a woman. However, based on the sword aura here, everyone knew who he was. The number 1 Sword Dao person in the southern border, Sword Venerable. But why does he look like this? Lu Wuhan and Long Lin quickly noticed that Sword Venerable's body was covered in dust. His clothes were also worse than the ordinary Sword Tribe disciples they had seen before. Especially his clothes, they still looked a little rotten. It gave off a desolate feeling of aging and decay. It was hard to imagine that this was the famous Sword Venerable. Junior Lin Yu is here to return the black tortoise sword to the Sword Tribe. Lin Yu's voice sounded. Sword Venerable still had his head lowered and did not move. He was like an old tree that had long withered. Lin Yu sighed softly. I brought Sword Fanatic back. As soon as he said that, the sword aura around them increased by 100 times. Sword Venerable slowly raised his head. His eye bags were extremely heavy, and his face was extremely pale. However, there was still a fierce look in his eyes. His gaze landed on Lin Yu, who was speaking, and quickly shifted to Xia Bing and Yi Mingwei. He shook his head again. Finally, his gaze landed on Sword Fanatic. Child, is it really you? Sword Venerable's hoarse and weak voice came out of his mouth. Sword Fanatic's eyes were red. She still remembered that this old man had hugged and doted on her when she was a child. Therefore, from a moment Sword Fanatic came in, he felt a stabbing pain in his heart when he saw Sword Venerable in this state. Unfilial granddaughter, Sword Fanatic, greets grandfather. Sword Fanatic knelt down and bowed deeply. This bow seemed to make Sword Venerable's face glow. Child, you're still alive. You're really still alive. Chapter 126. Anything could be deceived, but the bloodline in one's bones could not lie. Sword Venerable was sure that Sword Maniac had his bloodline. Jian Lingtian's shadow was also present. Boom! At this moment, the warm scene was broken by a loud sound. Outside the stone door, Jian Qiyun came in anger. Behind him were 36 white-haired elders. Father, you're awake. Congratulations. Jian Qiyun stepped forward and stood in front of Sword Venerable with his hands behind his back. He did not show any respect. Since father is awake, let's pass on the throne. Jian Qiyun's face was as cold as ice. The sooner I fulfill this wish, the sooner I can restore the glory of the Sword Clan. Other than Lin Yu, everyone was shocked. This old father who had locked him up for 10 years had to give up the throne as soon as he saw his only son? Jian Qiyun stared at Lin Yu like a poisonous snake. Men, capture Lin Yu and the others. Young master? Lin Yu shrugged with an indifferent look on his face. There's no need for us to do anything. Lin Yu finished speaking. Jian Qiyun also sensed that something was wrong. He ordered the 36 elders to separate Lin Yu and the others. Father, you're old. I'm the only one who can inherit the position of Sword Clan leader. Sword Venerable still did not look at him. Instead, he waved at Sword Maniac. Child, come here and let Grandpa take a look. Sword Venerable said. Jian Qiyun's eyes narrowed. Old thing, I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? Sword Maniac stepped forward. Jian Qiyun wanted to stop her. But at this moment, a powerful aura appeared in the sky above the Sword Clan. Haha, old friend Qiyun, long time no see. When the voice came, Xia Bing's body shook. Why is uncle here? While she was shocked, Xia Jie had already stepped through the stone door. The person you want is there. Jian Qiyun glanced at Xia Bing. Xia Jie nodded in satisfaction. Take it that I owe you a favor. Then he walked towards Xia Bing. Xia Bing, uncle is here for the Sacred Heart Cauldron. As he finished speaking, a surge of 9 suns transcendent realm cultivation pressed down. Xia Bing suddenly felt a little breathless. Xia Jie, aren't you afraid that young master will destroy the Sacred Heart Cauldron? Yi Mingyue sensed the pain on Xia Bing's pretty face under the pressure and immediately threatened her. The corners of Xia Jie's mouth curled up. Now that there is no one from the Yao clan, they can't wait for me to destroy the Sacred Heart Cauldron. It seems like someone can't help but want to replace it. Lin Yu couldn't help but laugh. Young master, uncle, what are you planning to do? Xia Bing's pupils dilated as she suddenly understood. Xia Jie looked at Lin Yu and said, You're smart, kid. He sighed. If I can make use of someone like you, I can guarantee that you will be second only to me and above everyone else in the Yao clan. Everyone was shocked. Who would have thought that aside from the Sacred Heart Cauldron, Xia Jie also wanted to subdue Lin Yu? What if it doesn't work for you? This old man admires your ability. If you can't be of use to me, then of course I can't let a future trouble like you stay. It seems like you and Jian Qiyun don't intend to let me walk out alive today. Hearing the conversation between Lin Yu and Xia Jie, the people behind Lin Yu were ready to fight to the death. Xia Bing colluded with the enemy and destroyed the Sacred Heart Cauldron. I'll kill her, Xia Jie said with a sinister expression. Lin Yu, what do you think of this excuse? Lin Yu shrugged. You came alone today. Didn't you already think of this? Haha, it's rare to see such a smart young man. Xia Jie nodded with satisfaction. He didn't know if he was satisfied with Lin Yu for guessing his thoughts or was satisfied with his methods. On the other side, Sword Fanatic saw that Xia Jie was about to harm the young master and was about to rush over. Child, between you and Jian Shun, who's stronger? Sword Fanatic was stunned and didn't understand why the Sword Venerable would ask such a question. Enough. Jian Qiyun's pupils contracted. Father, she's just a samsara realm trash. How can she be compared to Jian Shun? The laugh sounded. How can a dead person be compared to Sword Fanatic? The person who spoke was Lin Yu. Jian Qiyun had a bad feeling. The sword venerable was even more shocked. Chinner is dead? Lin Yu nodded with a smile. Jian Chen wanted to kill Sword Fanatic with the 4 Sacred Sword formation, but was killed by Sword Fanatic instead. Sword Venerable should know who's more suitable to inherit the position of Sword Patriarch. Right? How dare you? Sword Fanatic, your father betrayed the clan first. Today, you still dare to kill Jian Chen. Die. Jian Qiyun raised his right hand, and a beam of sword chi shot out, instantly approaching Sword Fanatic. Sword Fanatic's expression changed. She couldn't dodge Jian Qiyun's attack at all. However, at the same time, Sword Venerable released an even more powerful sword chi that destroyed Jian Qiyun's sword chi. In that instant, the sword chi floating in the air that was about to dissipate suddenly gathered in the secret chamber. Father. Jian Qiyun's tone was surprised, but he was much more polite. He was shocked. He didn't expect Sword Venerable to have such power. The sword chi floating in the air had already enveloped everyone. Once it exploded, everyone in the secret chamber would have to face countless sword chi attacks. Child, don't be afraid. Grandpa is here. Sword Venerable's gentle voice sounded. Sword Fanatic heaved a sigh of relief. Thank you, Grandpa. Sword Venerable's old eyes were filled with tears. Tell Grandpa the truth. Did Jian Chen really want to kill you? Sword Fanatic nodded and told him the truth. Good, Jian Qiyun. Your son is even more vicious than you. Sword Venerable's gaze landed on Jian Qiyun. His murderous aura enveloped Jian Qiyun. In an instant, Jian Qiyun felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He took a few steps back. Father, this bastard committed the same crime as his father. Why are you still protecting him? Jian Qiyun's face was filled with indignation. However, he was more afraid of Sword Venerable's current strength. He didn't expect Sword Venerable to still be so powerful. On the other side, Lin Yu looked at Xia Jie. Your accomplice seems to be dying. Aren't you going to help? Xia Jie narrowed his eyes. I only came here because the traitor of the medicine clan, Xia Bing, is here. What accomplice are you talking about? Lin Yu couldn't be bothered to argue with him. He took a step forward. Xia Jie wanted to stop him, but the sword chi around him suddenly gathered. Sword Venerable, people of the medicine clan. This is the Sword Clan. Sword Venerable spoke. Even though Xia Jie's eyes were filled with hatred, he didn't dare to stop Lin Yu. He was as shocked as Jian Qiyun. The 8 clans were all saying that Sword Venerable was dying. He didn't expect to see such a powerful existence with his own eyes. Grandpa, young master protected me along the way. That's why I could come here. After Sword Fanatic finished speaking, the elders surrounding Lin Yu felt their hearts tighten. Get lost. The Sword Venerable came over with a stern voice, causing the few elders to retreat in fear. Stop right there. This is the Sword Clan's private matter. Lin Yu, who do you think you are? How dare you meddle in other people's business? Chapter 127. Jian Qiyun had a bad feeling in his heart. The current situation was all planned by Lin Yu. Lin Yu approached him step by step. Jian Lingtian trusted you, but you killed him. Presumptuous. Jian Qiyun stabbed with his sword. Continue. Sword Venerable's voice came, and dozens of sword auras blocked Jian Qiyun's path. Every sword was permeated with a horrifying chill. Those were invincible realm sword cultivators. Lin Yu met Sword Venerable's gaze. Actually, you know very well that with Jian Lingtian's talent in swordsmanship, it's impossible for him to go berserk while cultivating the twin extremes of life and death. Sword Venerable's heart tightened, and the surrounding temperature plummeted again. The invincible chill was enough to crush all the transcendent realm experts present. Even Sword Fanatic looked at Lin Yu with a sad face when he heard his father's name. Young master, was my father harmed? Lin Yu nodded. It's a pity that too much time has passed since Jian Lingtian went berserk. We can't find any evidence. Jian Qiyun heaved a sigh of relief. Hee hee, so you're just trying to frame me. Men, take this kid down. Sword Venerable's invincible realm aura did not dissipate, and those elders couldn't move at all. Lin Yu smiled faintly and continued. After Jian Lingtian went berserk, his cultivation was crippled. It's impossible for him to become the successor of the Sword Clan. So, even if he was wronged, it's no longer important. Of course, Jian Qian wouldn't be stupid enough to sneak up on Jian Lingtian. He needed to find a way to make Jian Lingtian unable to pursue the matter. The only way to cripple his brother who had been stepping on his head was to poison him. With Jian Lingtian's strength, he wouldn't be poisoned unless it's the colorless blood reversal pill. When Lin Yu's voice fell, Jian Qiyun and Xia Jie's expressions changed at the same time. "You're slandering me," Jian Qiyun scolded, but because Sword Venerable's sword aura was still present, he didn't dare to act rashly. On the other side, Xia Jie stared at Lin Yu. Xia Bing's body trembled. The colorless blood-defying pill is one of the 3 unique pills of my Yao clan. It seems that young master was right. This matter is related to your eldest uncle. Yi Mingwei reminded in a low voice. From start to end, Lin Yu was not conversing with Jian Qiyun. Instead, he kept looking at the Sword Venerable. As long as he could convince the Sword Venerable, everything would be negotiable. It's not that you didn't have any doubts. It's just that the future of the Sword Clan has already been destroyed by Jian Lingtian. Jian Qiyun was your only hope back then. After hearing Lin Yu's words, the Sword Venerable's eyes were filled with despair. Jian Qiyun sneered. However, Jian Shun is already dead. Compared to Jian Qiyun, Jian Shi is even more likely to become the Sword Clan's future. Hearing what Lin Yu said, Jian Qiyun's smile disappeared. A brat who's still wet behind the ears wants to replace me. Jian Qiyun laughed in disdain. Lin Yu, I originally thought that you were a little smart, but now it seems that you are a complete idiot. Lin Yu still ignored him. Instead, he looked at the Sword Venerable's changing expression and smiled. Jian Shi's bloodline, 100 feet ancestral awakening, black tortoise sword mantra, and 4 sages sword formation have all been used perfectly. It should be able to withstand your lifetime of cultivation. Lin Yu's last sentence sent a chill down Jian Qiyun's spine. He's crazy, father. Don't listen to this kid's nonsense. Jian Qiyun was panicking. Now, if the Sword Venerable really listened to Lin Yu, he would be done for. But soon, Jian Qiyun saw that the Sword Venerable had already grabbed Jian Shi's wrist with one hand. Very good, child. You are more outstanding than Lingtian. The Sword Venerable's eyes shone with a rare light. Everyone leave. Child, you stay. I have something to say to you. Jian Qiyun nodded. Old thing, you must be tired of living. Jian Qiyun's eyes shone fiercely. How could he leave so easily at this time? 36th Elder, young Master Xia, this old thing must be exhausted. He won't be able to withstand more than a few moves. It's time to make a move. As soon as Jian Qiyun finished speaking, Xia Jie moved and attacked the Sword Venerable with his palm. The 36th Elder was still hesitating. Let's see if the old man will kill you after what you've done in the past few years. Jian Qiyun threatened. The 36th Elder looked at each other. Eldest Sword Son is right. The old patriarch won't be able to hold on for long. They were not fools. They also noticed that the sword chi was not as strong as before. Soon, the 36th Elder and Xia Jie surrounded them. Grandfather, Jian Qi's expression changed. In the current situation, they would be surrounded at any time. Even Lin Yu was surrounded. Get ready to save the young master. Outside, Yi Mingwei and the others were ready. However, Lin Yu could not help but laugh. Sword Venerable, you should be able to see who is the real traitor. Be asterisk starred. How could the Sword Venerable not know that Jian Qiyun could get Xia Jie to help with just one sentence? The truth about Lin Yu's deduction of the colorless blood-defying pill and the fact that Jian Lingtian had colluded with the medicine clan back then had already surfaced. That's right. I did it. Jian Qiyun laughed maniacally. That idiot of a brother. So what if he's talented? In the end, he still can't defeat me. The person who is truly suitable to be the patriarch of the Sword Clan is me, Jian Qiyun. The tree moves with the wind, but the wind uproots the tree. The fish believes in the water, but the water boils the fish to death. Lin Yu's bright eyes stared at Jian Qiyun meaningfully. Jian Lingtian started practicing swords at the age of 4. He cultivated sword chi at the age of 10 and stepped into the first realm of the sword principle. At the age of 16, he mastered the state of sword chi and stepped into the second realm of the sword principle. At the age of 30, he mastered the illusory sword and successfully used sword chi regeneration for the first time and stepped into the third realm of the sword principle. Lin Yu's words pierced through Jian Qiyun's heart. Every sentence was like digging open Jian Qiyun's most painful scar. At the age of 35, he was already a half step to the invincible realm. He was the #1 person in the Southern Border's younger generation. Sword Fanatic's beautiful eyes were drowned in tears. She only knew that the young master knew her father better than she did. Lin Yu stood in front of Jian Qiyun. He trusted you, so you had the chance to harm him. Jian Qiyun, even today, 10 years later, your sword principle and cultivation still can't reach Jian Lingtian's height. He smiled and approached Jian Qiyun. Well, you have to compete with him. Not only can you not compete with Jian Lingtian, but even Jian Shun can't compete with Sword Fanatic. Enough. Enough. Behind Jian Qiyun, 9 scorching suns suddenly erupted. The 9 suns' transcendent realm took a step forward. The ground was like magma passing through, instantly burning into pitch black. Even Lin Yu, Sword Fanatic, and Sword Venerable were like ants under these 9 suns. Lin Yu didn't make any move to counterattack. Just as Sword Fanatic was about to block in front of Lin Yu, in the secret room, countless sword chi instantly shrouded over. It was like a sword chi storm, with Sword Venerable as the center, converging into a vortex. Unfilial son, your talent is not good, but you only know how to use crooked methods. You killed your elder brother, and even want to harm Fanatic. You deserve to die. No. The cold sword chi pierced through, and the 9 suns instantly shattered. Chapter 128. As Jian Qiyun retreated, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The gap between the invincible realm and the transcendent realm was the gap between the second realm and the third realm. Even if the Sword Venerable was old, he was still not someone Jian Qiyun could match. The Sword Venerable stood up with killing intent. Lin Yu hugged Sword Maniac's waist with one hand. Young master, step back. Don't disturb your grandfather. The two retreated a few feet. Under the thousands of icy aura swords, Xia Jie's eyes flashed, and he retreated temporarily. As for the few elders who had already rushed forward, they were directly penetrated by the aura swords and turned into ice sculptures, shattering instantly. Xia Jie's expression changed greatly. Fortunately, I retreated quickly. He knew that he could not take down the Sword Venerable and Lin Yu today. He did not stop and rushed out of the secret room. Xia Jie, Brother Qiyun, this is the Sword Clan's family matter. I won't interfere. Xia Jie, you bastard. Puffed. Jian Qiyun spat out another mouthful of blood. The Sword Venerable's killing intent was aroused. The aura swords pierced through Jian Qiyun, and Jian Qiyun's vitality was constantly drained. Father, father, spare my life. Hearing this, Lu Wuhin and the others could not help but laugh. Father is still father. Lin Yu furrowed his brows. Even he was almost caught up in the battle. You deserve to die. The secret room was swallowed by the aura swords. When the aura swords dissipated, only 13 sword tribe elders were left in the battlefield, trembling in fear. As for the others, they all died on the ground together with Jian Qiyun. Clan leader, spare my life. Clan leader, spare my life. They all knelt down. Only now did they understand that a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Even if the Sword Venerable was old, he was not someone they could fight against. At this moment, the Sword Venerable closed his eyes, and the surroundings were dead silent. Yi Mingwei and the others wanted to ask Lin Yu what to do. However, Lin Yu raised his hand and shook his head. After a long time, the Sword Venerable slowly opened his eyes, but there was too much sadness and disappointment in his eyes. His two sons had fought each other. The older one had died in the younger one's hands, and the younger one had also died in his own hands today. This was a fatal blow to an old man. Moreover, Jian Chun had died today. Young master, sword fanatic subconsciously held Lin Yu's hand tightly. Too many things had happened today, and she was completely at a loss. Congratulations, sword sovereign. You've gotten rid of the malignant tumor of the sword race and obtained the most outstanding successor. Lin Yu's voice sounded. The elders cursed in their hearts. At this moment, they all sensed Sword Venerable's sadness. But Lin Yu touched the pot that didn't boil. Wasn't this courting death? Thank you. Sword Venerable's weak voice could be heard. However, he did not blame Lin Yu as the elders had expected. But as soon as the sword sovereign finished speaking, he staggered backwards and spat out a mouthful of blood. Grandfather, Sword Fanatic immediately ran over to support Sword Venerable. Lin Yu's figure also changed and came in front of Sword Venerable. Do you have any good medicinal herbs for the mental illness and the chronic illness that has plagued me for many years? Lin Yu sighed and immediately asked the elder. We don't know how to refine pills. How can we have any medicinal herbs? That's right. I do have a few pills here, but I don't know. Lin Yu interrupted him. Ordinary pills are harmful. Do you want to kill Sword Venerable? That elder was so frightened that he knelt down. Now, Sword Fanatic's identity was very clear. Jian Shiyun and Jian Shun were dead. So Sword Fanatic was the future leader of the sword race. And Sword Fanatic's relationship with Lin Yu was naturally extraordinary. They were not stupid. How would they dare to offend Lin Yu? Lin Yu looked helpless and blinked. Let me see if there are any medicinal herbs on these dead people. With that, he took away the storage rings of more than 20 elders and Jian Shiyun. The remaining 13 elders only felt that it was a little strange, but they couldn't say anything. Lin Yu looked anxious. He threw the storage rings on the ground. Of course, the items inside were all empty. Fortunately, I found some. As Lin Yu spoke, a large number of medicinal herbs flew out from the storage rings. The true sunfire appeared. The black flames, accompanied by the purest refining power, started melting all the medicinal herbs. The elders felt the terrifying heat of the true sunfire. It was much more terrifying than the yang aura of a transcendent realm. They couldn't help but be shocked. No wonder Jian Shiyun and Jian Chun couldn't kill this kid. The purest medicinal power flowed down and merged into Sword Venerable's body. As Sword Fanatic waited anxiously, Sword Venerable's complexion gradually eased, and he opened his eyes. You're from the medicine race? No, I just know a little about medicine. Sword Venerable smiled gently. Every generation brings forth new talents, and the new generation excels the old. You're not bad. Sword Venerable sat up straight. His gaze fell on Sword Fanatic, and it softened. Child, I'm sorry. As his voice fell, Sword Fanatic cried even more. From just now until now, she gradually understood the Sword Venerable's difficulty. He was an old man in his twilight years, an old man who had no one to rely on. Lin Yu didn't disturb them. Instead, he brought Yi Mingwei, Xia Bing, and the others out of the secret chamber. The remaining few elders naturally tactfully followed him out. But when they saw Lin Yu, they looked like they wanted to say something, but stopped on second thought. Young Master Lin, the storage rings just now. The leader of the elders said hesitantly, Storage rings? What storage rings? Lin Yu was confused. Yes. The elders spread out their hands at the same time. When they left, they picked up the storage rings of the other elders and Jian Shiyun. Oh, these. Lin Yu pushed their hands back. These belong to the sword race. Elders, you're too polite. But are they empty? Before the leading elder finished speaking, Lin Yu and the others had already walked far away. Young Master, you've gained a lot this time. Young Master is always the biggest winner. Jian Shun, Jian Shiyun, the elders, all the opponents who were killed by Young Master this time have their storage rings in Young Master's hands. Keep a low profile. Lin Yu shushed them. He had always been a low-profile person. He especially liked to make a fortune in silence. News of the secret chamber quickly spread throughout the sword race. In fact, the battle's fluctuations had already shaken almost all the sword race's combat power. It was a pity that when they gathered in front of the secret chamber, the battle had already ended. Everyone was shocked by this battle, because Jianxin was dead, and so was Jian Qiyun. Even the forces loyal to Jian Qiyun were uprooted overnight. During the day, Jian Qiyun was still the most powerful person in the sword race. However, after one night, Sword Venerable came out of seclusion and announced Sword Fanatic as the new successor of the sword race. He also announced Jian Qiyun's crime and cleared Jian Lingtian's name. However, the name they heard the most was the initiator of this great change in the sword race, Lin Yu. This name had already spread throughout the sword race. The remaining 13th Elder and other members of the sword race had already spread the story of how Lin Yu defeated Jian Qiyun and his son. Chapter 129. Have you heard? Sword Maniac replaced Jian Shun and became the first successor of the Sword Tribe. The man behind Sword Maniac is Lin Yu. As soon as Lin Yu woke up, he heard the rumors that were going around. Rumors stopped with the wise. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Lu Wuhan was envious of Lin Yu. No matter where you go, whether it's the Hongmeng continent, the Wind Moon tribe, or the Sword Tribe, young master is the center of attention. The strong are respected. The dragon-scaled man was a man of few words. I think this guy is especially good at dealing with women. The Wind Moon, 5 fairies, and Sword Maniac all listened to him. Yi Minghua looked at Lin Yu reproachfully. What about you? Lin Yu looked over. Yi Minghua blushed and lowered her head. Xia Bing, who was standing at the side, was stunned. Yi Minghua was subdued by Lin Yu. She should speak less. She was sure that she was weaker than Yi Minghua in front of Lin Yu. Young master. Outside the courtyard, Sword Maniac's voice sounded. Behind her, there were 13 elders. Maniac, why did you bring so many people? Lu Wuhan blinked his eyes. The sword tribe had just suffered a heavy blow yesterday. Today, 13 elders were gathered. It was a little too big. Sword Maniac looked helpless and bowed apologetically. Elder Lu, please don't take offense. They are protecting me. Lu Wuhan finally understood. Sword Maniac was no longer the same as before. In terms of status, she was probably higher than Xia Bing in the Yao tribe. Elders, please wait for me here. Young Patriarch, do you want us to accompany you? The elders asked respectfully. Sword Maniac's beautiful eyes were filled with anger. With young master here, what are you worried about? The group of elders' faces twitched. They could tell from Sword Maniac's tone that she was more at ease with Lin Yu than anyone else. Sword Maniac went straight to Lin Yu and knelt down. I will never forget young master's kindness. The 13 elders jumped in fright. Sword Fanatic's current status was noble. How could he become the disciple of a brat who was still wet behind the ears? However, since Lin Yu was able to plot against Jian Qiyun yesterday, they naturally did not dare to openly stop him. Get up. Lin Yu helped Sword Maniac up. Young master. Sword Fanatic's bright eyes were filled with gratitude, but he quickly restrained his emotions. I've already asked grandfather about what I promised young master. He wants you to meet him. All right. The Sword Maniac was naturally talking about the 4 divine swords. The 4 divine swords were of great importance. Lin Yu could take other things, but the 4 divine swords had already been returned to the Sword Venerable by the Sword Fanatic yesterday. And Sword Revered, wanting to meet Lin Yu, was also within his expectations. With Sword Fanatic leading the way, Lin Yu went straight to Sword Venerable's palace. This was an even taller palace behind the 2 stone swords in the sky. It was also the residence of the true Sword Tribe Patriarch. Grandpa, young master is here. Sword Fanatic brought Lin Yu over. Sword Venerable, who was seated above, bowed and said. The other 13 elders did not dare to follow them in. All right, Sword Venerable turned around and walked down the hall. Clearly, he did not look down on them. This also showed the Sword Venerable's respect for Lin Yu. Young friend Lin Yu, How should I repay you for the Sword Tribe's great kindness? Lin Yu did not hide anything from Sword Venerable. I just need to borrow the 4 divine swords for a period of time. Can I ask a few more questions? Lin Yu nodded. Of course. Sword Venerable smiled happily and looked at Sword Fanatic. Child, you can leave first. I want to talk to young friend Lin Yu alone. Grandpa. Sword Fanatic looked at Lin Yu worriedly. Why? Do you think Grandpa will hurt your young master? Sword Fanatic immediately shook his head. Sword Venerable sighed softly. Even if Grandpa wants to hurt him, I'm afraid I might not be your young master's match. Don't you think so? Sword Fanatic hesitated for a moment. Then I'll go out. Sword Venerable's eyes were a little lonely. He looked at Lin Yu and laughed self-deprecatingly. As Grandpa, I'm not as important as young friend Lin Yu in Fanatic's heart. Family is family in the end. It's just that the time is short. Once you get along for a long time, family is still the most important. Sword Venerable was overjoyed. He smiled and said, It seems that young friend Lin Yu will agree to my request. Lin Yu did not interrupt him. I hope to keep Fanatic in the Sword Tribe and pass on my cultivation to her. Sword Venerable's eyes were filled with love and reluctance. I don't have much time left. Lin Yu cupped his fists and said, Of course. Sword Fanatic is still a descendant of the Sword Tribe. It's a pity that she wants to leave with you. Therefore, I'm very curious about young friend Lin Yu's purpose in coming to the southern border. My purpose is very simple. I want to participate in a fun game. Sword Venerable did not know why, but Lin Yu's words gave him an unfathomable feeling, even though it was just an understatement. A dignified Sword Venerable actually had such feelings for a young man. Young friend Lin Yu, can you tell me more? Even if there are great changes in the southern border, Sword Venerable should have heard some clues. For example, the 9-headed Buddha Emperor was injured. Sword Venerable's face tensed up. It's something that happened many years ago. To be honest, young friend Lin Yu, I didn't verify this matter. I only heard some rumors. Sword Venerable said. As for the reason, young friend Lin, you should know. But there's one thing that's really special. Sword Venerable, please tell me. 33 years ago, the Buddha Emperor collected corpses wantonly. Lin Yu smiled. He actually knew about this matter. Now that Sword Venerable told him, it could be considered that Sword Venerable wanted to repay him. This old man didn't have much time left. Lin Yu naturally couldn't interrupt him. Young friend Lin Yu, you seem to know something. I only heard about it, but I don't know the details. Sword Venerable nodded and continued. 33 years ago, the grave-carrying tribe, the Southern Baron tribe, and the Imperial Beast tribe passed down a decree from the Buddha Emperor to collect all the corpses in the southern border that were less than 47 days old. I felt that this matter was strange, but I didn't look into it. With the Buddha Emperor's decree and the 3 tribe leaders personally hosting the corpses collection ceremony, I remember that the 3 million corpses in the southern border were all gathered by the grave-carrying tribe. Lin Yu smiled. That might not be the Buddha Emperor's decree. Sword Venerable frowned and said, Young friend Lin Yu, why do you say that? No one dared to pass down a fake decree in the southern border, because the southern border was the Buddha Emperor's world. It's a long story, but the so-called decree only contains a trace of the Buddha Emperor's Tao. Perhaps there's a way to fake it. Lin Yu continued to explain, the 9-headed Buddha Emperor isn't a murderous person. He's also the most benevolent of the 3 emperors in the legends. The great Tao that he cultivates counters the death chi of the corpses, isn't it? Sword Venerable couldn't refute. Lin Yu's words were extremely accurate. The Buddha Emperor cultivates the supreme power of Buddhism. He does need to avoid the death chi. This Sword Venerable had suspected this before. However, the Emperor was a supreme existence in the Star region. No one dared to guess or oppose the Emperor's actions. However, if what Lin Yu said was true, the decree was fake, then the collection of corpses was even more likely to be fake. Chapter 130. Is Lin Yu's reason for borrowing the 4 sacred swords related to the Buddha Emperor? The Sword Venerable was old and cunning. He was not as stupid as Jian Qiyun and Jian Shun. Sword Venerable, You are very smart. Of course, I'm not sure about the Buddha Emperor's exact situation. I just want to prepare more trump cards. After all, the hidden danger in the south is about to erupt. The sword venerable laughed. To hear praise from a young man. For some reason, the sword venerable felt happy. The south. What happens in the future may have nothing to do with me. The sword venerable patted Lin Yu's shoulder. It will be the world of you young people in the future. I have something to ask. Please speak, sword venerable. Lin Yu is about the same age as Qi Yer. What do you think of her? With Lin Yu's state of mind, how could he not understand what the sword venerable meant? He could not help but feel his cheeks twitch. The sword venerable felt the same, because both of them sensed that. Outside the hall, sword fanatic was eavesdropping. This was very troublesome. Lin Yu still has unfulfilled wishes in his heart. As for the matters between a man and a woman, I do not plan to do it so early. Please understand, sword venerable. Lin Yu said respectfully with his fists clasped. Not only did he have to give face to the old man who was still gloomy about losing his son, he also had to give face to sword fanatic, whose cheeks were burning but whose heart was racing as she eavesdropped. I understand. The sword venerable could see Lin Yu's ambition. If you achieve your wish in the future, please consider Qi Yer. Soon, she will be the leader of the sword tribe. Lin Yu smiled. Lin Yu understands. He did not want to think about it for the time being. However, at this moment, sword fanatic felt a stab in her heart. Young master did not reject or agree. Why does my heart hurt so much? Tears welled up in sword fanatic's eyes as she left quietly. Sigh. The sword venerable sighed softly. Of course, he couldn't have guessed that Lin Yu's perception was stronger than his. One last thing. Even if young friend Lin Yu has borrowed the 4 sacred swords, without the 4 sacred sword art, these swords will not be able to unleash their destructive power. Clearly, the sword maniac did not tell the sword venerable that his black tortoise sword art was inherited from Lin Yu. However, Lin Yu had once displayed the black tortoise sword technique in the sword race. Although this matter was suppressed because Jian Qiyun and his son had been uprooted, the black tortoise sword technique had still not spread. But as time passed, someone would tell the sword sovereign. Sword sovereign, don't worry. The 4 divine swords are not my final trump card. My trump card is the 4 swords, 5 ultimate god-killing formation. God-killing array. Even with the sword sovereign's status and mental state, at this moment, his voice couldn't help but become hoarse as he looked at Lin Yu in shock. How do you know about the array that has been lost in the south for thousands of years? Lin Yu naturally wouldn't tell him that during the 100,000 years that he was trapped, he had once dug up the tomb of one of the ancestors in the south. From there, he had learned many secrets about the south in the past. One of them was the 4 swords, 5 ultimate god-killing formation. Sword sovereign, you don't need to know about this for the time being. The sword sovereign understood what Lin Yu meant and smiled awkwardly. Since young friend has such a powerful trump card, I am even more relieved. Humans should have secrets. The sword sovereign had lived for so many years. Of course, he wouldn't be angry just because Lin Yu was unwilling to tell him the reason. The more powerful he was, the more he could ensure the safety of the sword race and the sword maniac in the future. The sword sovereign didn't think otherwise. Lin Yu was a young man worth befriending for a lifetime. He waved his right hand, and the azure dragon, white tiger, black tortoise, and vermilion bird appeared. 4 rays of sword chi soared into the sky, even without any sword cultivator activating them. When the 4 swords appeared at the same time, the entire clan leader's hall was filled with a suffocating pressure. Of course, this pressure was only for ordinary people. The sword sovereign wasn't affected at all. However, he was more surprised that Lin Yu wasn't affected either. Young friend Lin Yu, your sword principal is already at the 3rd realm, right? Although he didn't see Lin Yu make a move. However, from Lin Yu's performance, the sword venerable could already guess what was going on. 3rd realm, perhaps. Lin Yu shrugged and prepared to take the black tortoise sword with his bare hands. Be careful. This sword can backfire on people outside the sword race. As soon as the sword sovereign finished speaking, he saw that Lin Yu had already put the 4 swords into his storage ring. What? Lin Yu blinked. Ahem, it's nothing. Young friend, help yourself. The sword sovereign smiled awkwardly. This kid is really not simple. After settling the matter in the south, I'll return it as soon as possible. No, there's no hurry. It's not suitable for you to activate the Four Sages sword art at your current level. The sword sovereign chuckled. He thought to himself, it's best if you don't return it in your lifetime. It would make Lin Yu owe the sword race something. This was a long-term bond. Lin Yu narrowed his eyes. He sighed in his heart. Only then did he realize that Jian Xiun was assigned to the sword sovereign's craftiness. As for Jian Lingtian, he was assigned to the sword sovereign's integrity. The Four Sages' sword fell into Lin Yu's hands. Lin Yu didn't stay any longer and bade farewell. After returning to his residence, he saw Xia Bing waiting for him. Young master, you're back? Yes. Lin Yu nodded. Xia Bing wanted to say something, but stopped. She pursed her lips. Speak. Young master, Grandpa is seriously ill. I think. Lin Yu patted Xia Bing's head. You actually forgot about your grandpa. Xia Bing was flattered. She bowed and said, so young master also remembers Grandpa's illness? Of course. Xia Zheng's granddaughter is with me. How can I stand by and do nothing about his illness? Hearing this, Xia Bing's fair face immediately blushed. Young master, be careful with your words. The words is with me made Xia Bing sensitive. Then let's set off for the medicine race. Lin Yu's casual words warmed Xia Bing's heart. She bowed and said, thank you, young master. After informing the others, Lin Yu returned to his room and saw the sword maniac. Young master, didn't you bring the 13th elder this time? The sword maniac shook her head. I came secretly. Are you leaving, young master? Her tone was filled with reluctance. Lin Yu knew that with the sword maniac's cute age, she couldn't restrain her passion like Qin Ji. Yes, go to the medicine race. I can carry out another plan. There was a deep look in Lin Yu's eyes. The sword maniac was a little fascinated. She had countless exciting experiences with Lin Yu. Every time, it was as if she was trapped. But under Lin Yu's strategy, she turned all misfortunes into blessings. This was the most shocking feeling the sword maniac had ever felt since she followed Lin Yu. This was also something she had never experienced before. The joy of cultivating and becoming stronger. I also want to go with young master. The sword maniac said what was in her heart. No, Lin Yu decisively refused. What you should do now is listen to your grandpa. For some reason, tears immediately fell from the sword maniac's eyes. Does young master hate me? Chapter 131. Lin Yu knew that this girl had fallen in love. But he was a single man who had no luck with women. He was helpless. I don't hate you, but you have more important things to do. Listen to me. I'll bring you to have fun in the future. Moreover, Jian Qiyun and Jian Shun are your grandfather's descendants. You should accompany him more. There's something that he always wanted to leave for your father. It's also something that Jian Qiyun dreamed of. But now it should be yours. Sword fanatic wiped her tears. Grandfather said that I'll inherit the position of patriarch in a while. Will you come back to see me? She thought that Lin Yu was talking about the position of patriarch, so she didn't hide anything. I should. Lin Yu asked about the time and answered. Sword fanatic knew that she couldn't follow Lin Yu. What he said was for her own good, so she pulled her sleeves and pressed her delicate body against him. Lin Yu almost bounced out. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Sword fanatic blushed and her heart raced. She hugged Lin Yu gently. Young master, I don't know about the matters between men and women, but I'm willing to become stronger for you. Sword fanatic gently gritted her teeth as she recalled the scene by the spring behind by Luo Shanqing Palace. She stood on her tiptoes and whispered in Lin Yu's ear, I'm willing to learn anything that young master likes. Calm down. A fragrant wind blew past his ear. Lin Yu was glad that his Dao heart was firm. Otherwise, he would have executed the future patriarch of the sword race on the spot. Little girl, you've learned bad things. Sword fanatic lowered her head. Young master, you must take care. With that, she didn't dare to look at Lin Yu again and ran out of the room. Soon, The sword race prepared a top-grade warship. Sword Venerable personally gave the order. The remaining elders were still worried that Sword Venerable would settle the score with them, so they didn't dare to be negligent. However, there were still some ignorant ones who sought Sword Venerable for quick success. Patriarch, now that Linyu has left, this old man has something to say. Sword Venerable narrowed his eyes. He hated this kind of behavior. He only dared to say this after Linyu left. Clearly, this sort of backstabbing was a bad habit passed down by his unfilial son, Jin Shiyun. Speak, the elder said righteously. Linyu, that brat, took everything from the storage rings of the elders and eldest swordmaster. He had originally admired his courage. But suddenly there was a loud boom. A sword chi struck the elder's abdomen. Patriarch, I'm not lying. The elder spat out a mouthful of blood and knelt down with his head lowered. He thought that the Sword Venerable had misunderstood that he was framing Linyu. But as soon as he finished speaking, boom, the second sword chi was unleashed. The elder flew out of the hall. Patriarch, I really didn't lie. The elder struggled to get up. He didn't understand why he was beaten. Elder Chun, are you really not lying? Young Patriarch. Only then did Elder Chun realize that he was done for. Why would Sword Maniac do that behind the hall? In the sword race, everyone knew that Sword Maniac came with Linyu. Now that he was impeaching Linyu, Sword Maniac actually heard it. Clan leader, young clan leader, this old man lied. Elder Chun kowtowed desperately. This old man lied. Scram. The one who spoke wasn't Sword Maniac, but Sword Venerable. Elder Chun spat out blood and left. Sword Maniac bowed to Sword Venerable. Grandfather, young master didn't do it on purpose. Silly child. Sword Venerable sighed. The more you take, the better. You don't understand. Sword Maniac wanted to plead for Linyu because of this matter. But he didn't expect Sword Venerable's attitude to be so unexpected. Grandfather, shouldn't you be helping young master? Sword Venerable smiled. Linyu has the potential of an emperor. Child, the deeper your relationship with him, the better. The messier, the better. Emperor, are you saying that young master can become an existence on the level of the three emperors? Sword Maniac blinked and thought of something. Her cheeks flushed under her bright eyes. Grandfather, what are you talking about? Linyu's warship left the sword race's territory. Xiaobing followed behind and bowed. Thank you, young master. Linyu shook his head. You've said it many times. Xiaobing pursed her lips. She was really grateful to Linyu. Whether it was defeating the Bailing sect in the inn, seizing the Sacred Heart Cauldron from the Wind Moon Union, or even protecting her under Xia Zhan's slap. This young man's figure was deeply imprinted in her heart. Young master, after returning the Sacred Heart Cauldron, Xiaobing doesn't know what to do. Linyu knew what this girl meant. You're so thin-skinned. Linyu teased. Xiaobing lowered her head, blushed, and gritted her teeth. Young master, I want to follow you. Her heart raced. For a girl who had just fallen in love, this was a very shy thing. I heard that. Yi Mingyue's voice came from behind. Xiaobing's face turned even redder. Sister Mingyue, I hate you. What's there to hate? Yi Mingyue hooked Xiaobing's wrist. Young master didn't say you can't follow him. Isn't that right, young master? Yi Mingyue looked at Linyu teasingly. However, she thought to herself, this bad guy is really popular with girls. Sword Maniac had just separated, and Xiaobing had already expressed her feelings. However, Yi Mingyue gradually got over it. Unfortunately, Linyu was too outstanding. The pitiful Xiaobing didn't dare to look at Linyu from beginning to end, afraid that Linyu would reject her. However, Linyu sighed softly. I'm afraid the trip to the medicine race isn't that simple. Xiaobing's heart tightened. What do you mean, young master? Xiajia lost in the sword race this time. I'm afraid he won't let you live. After all, we know about his past. Xiaobing frowned. Young master, let Xiaobing return to the medicine race alone. Yi Mingyue burst into laughter. She looked at Linyu with confidence. Bad guy, you must have an idea long ago. She could be considered the person who knew Linyu the best on this battleship. Of course, She didn't know that Lin Yu had also done a lot of research on her. Xiaobing looked at Lin Yu and Yi Mingyue in surprise. The latter explained, "If young master can think of something, then you must have a solution." Lin Yu smiled helplessly. Yi Mingyue was a beauty, and she was one of the more interesting women when he was trapped. Except for some aspects. Also, this girl was smart. A smart woman would often give him a lot of points. Change into them. Lin Yu took out a few clothes from his storage ring. Clothes from the sword race. And female clothes. Seeing that the two women were confused, Lin Yu took out a few more tokens. Those female elders died yesterday. These are their clothes. As for the tokens, they are the elders of the sword race. Xiaobing, you don't have to change. Mingyue, change into them with Long Lin and Lu Wuan. Yi Mingyue's bright eyes turned into crescents. Young master, you want us to pretend to be elders of the sword race? It's a temporary measure. Before I left, I asked the sword venerable about this matter, and he agreed. Lin Yu smiled. This was also the reason why the sword venerable beat Elder Chen up when he risked his life to advise him. Lin Yu had already assured the sword venerable, "You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."